Hi, this is Naroki5. I am going to be doing this until I die or I find something better to do. So please help me achieve this personal and, I think, noble objective by contributing to my Patreon or Subscribe Star. Link is down below. Every little bit helps. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Red Pill Nation Hangout number 390. I am your host, Naruki5, and I am with me tonight are two of the usual, although it won't be two of the usual because Rearson's going to be gone for a while. We'll get into a more deep discussion about that. Rearson will say his temporary goodbyes here after we do the introductions with everybody. I'm just going to say it, though, because he's going to get roasted unmercifully for 391 on this. I suspect it's because it's like he's, he wants to spend more cuddly time with the gimp suit aliens. That's just my personal opinion. But anyway, I am the Rookie 5. Kelso, welcome aboard. All right, so without further ado...
I haven't been on one of these in a while. I'm still feeling freaking exhausted today, but I was just like, why not?
Okay, so I guess it'll be you, V, and then Rearson. So, but yeah, without further ado, Rearson, introduce yourself.
Good. Yeah. Ave, one and all. I am Pearson. I've known Roki for over half my life, and it's almost pretty much half of his life now. I have come to the moment where I've kind of been dreading, and I've been heading in that direction already as it is, that this will be my last regular appearance on Red Pill Nation Hangout. If Naroki does really want me to come on, I will, but for this to be a regular occurrence for me on when we do the recordings on Sunday nights, I've had to step away and dropping the mic or hanging up the mic or turning it off, disconnected, however you want to see it or think of it. There is no tension between Naroki and I. We've had
your volume dropped really low. It was good, then it dropped. Just let you know.
Fine. Is this better?
Okay, continue, Rearson.
Still kind of low, but
anyway. Excuse me. There's no angst, anger between Naroki and I. We've had a great relationship, friendship for, like I said, about half my life now. So it's just there's things that I need to start doing, and I need to move on in a different direction. And the pardon me, this sounds like Justin Trudeau. This kind of medium is honestly it's not my thing. I've enjoyed being more of the political commentator, the conspiracy theorist to it, but this is not something that I wake up and I think about or do any editing. I do nothing of the sort. I've just been along for the ride. So it has been wonderful, and with our two regular enough guests, you guys have been wonderful as well too. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that for now. So let the two of you introduce yourselves, and then let the usual mayhem commence.
Oh, well, Roger's with us now, too. Kelso, introduce yourself.
Hello. I'm Dave Kelso. I run PSEC Media, and primarily Paradigm Shift and Educational Comedy. So, you could find me on Minds, and then go to the About section on my Minds page. And there's going to be all the links for everything else. As for what Rearson just said, it's really interesting because, as you probably noticed, and even with my own PSEC stuff, I've kind of been on a similar but different track. Like, I guess you could say my life has been reconfiguring a lot. like as it stands, I still got like more than half of the PSEC on Tour 2022 stuff that I've still been working on processing and getting out as I can. Like all the 2023 stuff is there as far as that. And then there's some other PSEC episodes that are in directories that are backlogged. For PSEC on tour this year, I went to Ohio, and I went to Gary, Indiana, hanging out with Henrik. And coming up real soon here, I'm going to be going to Southern Oregon to hang out with General Tate, Richard, and also going to be seeing Northern California. So going to get to see things like the Redwoods and Mount Shasta and shit like that. But it's just like I I haven't done that much with PSEC this year. Well, like I said, there's a few for this year I got to process and get up, and some stuff with Henrik and Lauren and all that. But I think the bulk of this year's content is going to be PSEC on tour, and like I said, that's going to take me a while to get up. Just my reality has been reconfiguring like crazy. I think everybody I know, their realities have been reconfiguring like crazy. So, whether you're looking out at the world and just all the constant changes and geopolitical insanity and whatever else out there, the good, the bad, and the ugly, it's like I'm kind of seeing like an as above, so below type of thing. Society is changing on the external, and people's individual lives, have been shifting around quite a bit, mine included, and pretty much everybody I know. So I guess it's like par for the course for this decade. I haven't even been on RPN, that much this year. Haven't been on WPRPN that much this year. So, I mean, I'm sure you guys have noticed, like, where's Dave? Hopefully he's not dead. I mean, I've been poking my head in enough so people know I have a fucking pulse, but, yeah, so just it is what it is. What can I say? So I totally get where Rierson is coming from on needing to pull back on some things, reorient to other things, and having stuff to take care of. So Rierson, I totally get it.
Cool. Good to know it's not just me.
Actually, yes, it is, but it will continue. Roger.
Oh, that reminds me. One of these days, Rierson, we still need to do a PSEC thing on Larkin Rose's book. That's kind of been tentative for us. I mean, it's no big rush, but one of these days we do got to get to it.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, Roger, because we'll do Roger and then V, and then we'll get into the other, get into some news of my own, and then we'll get into the actual topic. So, Roger, introduce yourself.
All right, did I sound all right?
Yeah, you sound fine, man.
All right, I'm Roger Hanson. You can catch me on Skype. I have my own show that I've been doing Monday nights. I've calmed down on a lot of the other stuff that I've been doing. Backed off of it for a while. Took a break. If you want to find me, you can find me on Skype, or I'm also on Discord. I've been working on stuff on X / Twitter, whatever you want to call it, as well. Besides that, I'm getting into gaming and stuff. I think V wanted to do something with me here in the future. We've been talking about something with gaming, and I've also been talking about doing another thing with Rapid Glitch on Nostalgia Gaming Retro for some podcasts and stuff of that nature. So mostly I've been focusing mostly on my gaming. You can find me at Gaming with Infamous on YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey. Roger Hanson actually on Odyssey, but other than that, I haven't been doing very much other than live with Roger Hanson. So that's it.
And
hey, I should also mention that everything Rierson is doing is being done for the glory of the Klingon Empire and Klingon female breast milk. Just wanted to get
No titty milk for me, at least not from Klingon.
Oh, yeah. We won't go there immediately. We'll save it for 391 when he's no longer around to defend himself. V, introduce yourself.
Well, this kind of feels like a farewell party for Rierson. I mean, I know he's got a lot of things to do. He's got so many different loops to try out. He's got to expand his collection of leather. I think he's moved on to latex a lot too, right? So I mean, he's got stuff he's got to do.
I ain't telling you shit. You and I still got to hang out again, V. That's another one of the episodes I got to get to rendering, the one we already did. But yeah, we got to do a more proper one that's not just us lounging on a couch in the aftermath of a barbecue. But yeah.
I look forward to that. I'm currently up in Wisconsin right now. Trying to just stay out of the heat. I will make it back to California in a month after it's cooled down a little bit.
Well, stop by over here first before you do. Otherwise, I'm gonna be like, what the fuck? Left without even coming back, little bitch.
Well, I gotta skedaddle. I gotta go straight to Cali because I have a lawsuit there. I'm suing Greyhound for reasons we can discuss elsewhere.
Didn't know.
But if you're coming to Shasta, I can come see you then. That's not. Reading is like 2 or 3 hours away from where I will be, so it's not a problem.
Okay, we'll coordinate and meet up in California then. Works for me. And then Richard could actually get to meet you in person, and it could be all three of us doing a PSEC episode. That'd be kind of neat.
That'd be awesome. So
yeah,
I am the host of the Red Pill Hardcore Radio Show, which is on hiatus because I got other stuff to do as well. Being part owner and special projects director of TLBTalk.com, Freedom of Speech Social Network, I got to spend time, just spreading word of that. And once that grows big enough, yes, I will start my show regularly again. I'll probably be on PSN with the Jackal, more than likely. And then I'll work my re-syndications as I visit different places.
Hey V, I'm gonna be in Southern Oregon, Northern California, that sort of area, from August 28th to September 8th. So if you're gonna be in that vicinity at that time, then we'll work something out for exactly what day Shasta is going to happen. But just letting you know when I'm actually going to be there.
So when you go to Shasta, I'm curious, what are you going there for, Dave?
Oh, just to see it. Like, it's a hot spot for a lot of stuff, plus it's beautiful, so I just kind of want to go and see what happens. I mean, if worst case scenario is I look around and it's a bunch of beautiful nature and I enjoy myself, I'd call that a pretty good trip. I've also gone up in 2022 when I did the Northern Oregon thing. I went into Southern Washington and went to the Johnston Observatory, Mount St. Helens, and that was pretty wild. Just being that high up in the mountains, you got a mountain that's 8,000 feet tall, and then you're on this other smaller mountain next to it that's got a 4,000 foot elevation, and you're just looking out everywhere, and it's just pictures and video can't do it justice. It's all well and cool and all, but just being there is a whole other experience than just watching a YouTube video about a place like that.
Okay, well, just to finish up here, since I have been on hiatus from my show, I've been doing my best to be regular here, and I will be a regular with this show, and I don't know, maybe being a substitute for Rierson. So I don't know. Naoki, the guys have to let me know. But anyways,
okay, all right, yep. Well, if you're in Shasta, I understand that's where they take that's where the aliens take Rierson for his love. So yeah, you might run maybe
the aliens will show me Rierson's gimp suit if I ask nicely.
Anal probing.
I assure you, no, no, and no.
Do you know
Sorry.
why he's taking off? Because
Sorry,
they
boys, it's
promoted
just not
him.
my thing.
He wears the silver suit now. He does the probing.
Oh, he's moved up in the world. Congratulations. That's the reason why you're so busy now. Okay, all right. Best
The
of luck
the
with that.
aliens.
It
The
goes with
aliens
the
are gonna be paying him 12 bars of gold pressed latinum.
Exactly. And all the Klingon breast milk he could possibly want.
Nope. Nope. No. No. Well, I'd rather Klingon female titty milk than transgender female. Anyway, whatever.
Oh, anyway, yeah, we don't. There are no transgender discussion topics on tonight's show. By the way,
Oh, if you
Those
want
of-
some Star Trek trans, just go have sex with a trill. There you go.
oh my God, I can't. That's a visual that I can do without. All right, for those of you who don't know, you can support me. I've only got a Patreon right now, which I haven't touched in a few months, but it's there. I am also in descending order of the number of subs I've currently got: BitChute, MGTOW TV, Odyssey, Rumble, and Brighteon. Brighteon is just growing like a goddamn weed. Like it's like every day I go to it, there's like another couple of people who subbed there. So yeah, that one's growing. That one's growing exponentially at this point. I am also at Facebook, Minds, Gab, MeWe, TLB Talks, and Getter, at least for now. One of these days, I'm going to get around to getting all the stuff up at Spotify and iTunes and SoundCloud and Podbean and all of those other podcast things, but I ain't gonna do there yet. Speaking of transitions, and this is another piece of site news. For at least because of what happened here, because I talked about the wildfires a couple weeks back that were occurring in Alberta, and the fact that I was basically laid up in Edmonton for about a month, waiting for the fire, waiting for it to be safe to go back to where I was working. Well, I won't say I went broke, but I was down to my reserves. So I will not. I had to make a rather difficult choice about where I'm living right now, and for at least probably through the winter now and into the spring, I'm going to stay where I am. I don't like the rent situation here, and the new landlords are a bunch of assholes. But at this point, yeah, no, I just took. There was a little bit too much of a financial hit in July, and it's going to be, and I got another something coming up in September, and then of course, and we may want to coordinate on this one, folks. I'm going to put some money together. I'm going to do my damnedest to get down to an Acapulco in February. If anybody else wants,
that would be awesome. So best of luck to you on that. I hope you manage to do it. That would be great.
yeah. If some other people want to go with me, more power to them. But yeah, I want to get down to an Acapulco next year. But anyway, that is it for site news. For those of you who,
Well, I know V's got the money for that, but does he have the time? That's the real question.
yeah. All right.
I'll be everywhere. I'll be where I'm needed. That's the whole point
All
of
right.
RV.
All right. So
Go to Acapulco then. I'd go if I had the money. That place is a fucking blast. Like, do it.
Oh, absolutely. So anyway, the topics for tonight, a lot of good stuff tonight, strangely enough. Topic number 1, GARM closes up shop in the presence of a combined lawsuit by X/Twitter and Rumble. Topic number 2, Biden administration colluded with Justin Trudeau to censor Freedom Convoy on social media. That one was a very
Imagine my shock.
Yeah, I damn near I almost ran out of my apartment screaming when I found out about that one. Topic number 3, again, this one is also probably not that much of a surprise. Riots in Britain being indirectly supported by the new British government. As you know, they went Labour. As the Marvel Cinematic Universe fired all their woke and activist executives, there's some very interesting stuff going on at MCU, which I will get into. Topic number 5, the situation with Mr. Beast keeps getting worse. And topic number 6, Kamala Harris's VP pick, Tim Walz, strongly indicates that the Democrats have gone full woke. And yeah, they have gone full woke. Oh, one last thing. V and Roger, that special that we wanted to do on Hollywood and all of the melodrama around some of the stuff that's going around with YouTube, because Susan Wojcicki died today.
Yeah, I know. I just found out about that. That's
Really?
She died today.
I hate speaking ill of the dead, but that's one thing that's I'm trying to show a little humility for right now.
Yep. So,
we have no standards on RPN, so I won't show any. Ding dong, the witch is dead. The wicked witch, the wicked. Anyway. Yeah.
Which?
Anyway, so
at least you said it.
All right. So if you got some time, if specifically Roger and V, but if any of you other guys want to jump on tomorrow, I will probably do it in the afternoon because I want to go. Because tomorrow's literally the last night I have to go to get to a movie. I did go see. I did go see Wolverine versus Deadpool when I got into town. There's another movie I want to go see, but if you guys are available tomorrow afternoon,
that'd be fine. We can.
We will. You will get that. We will get all that stuff done on that spare parts episode, so we can get it behind us. Because there's another idea that I want to pitch. If you guys want to stick around at the end of the show, I will discuss it with you because it's specifically a manosphere issue, but I think it's something that you might find interesting.
By the way, don't you find it interesting that first Susan Wojcicki's son dies from that whole fentanyl thing, and now Susan herself is gone? I find that interesting.
Well, I will. We're going to be doing this on 391 or 392 because she died today.
Yeah, I didn't even know until now. I just find it interesting that first her son dies, then she's gone.
Well, it's not unusual. Hold on a second. For when a kid dies because of a drug overdose, for the parents of the kids to go through a lot of trauma. If they're in the program themselves, a lot of them will relapse. It's not at all unusual for a parent, especially, and we won't get into too much detail, especially when the parents was likely as neglectful as Susan Wojcicki probably was with her son. That's just speculation on my part, but yeah.
I'd like to add on that too, though. With her, and the way her behaviors were, I doubt if she was active in the program, she was probably like a dry drunk or a drug addict.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that she was in the program. I'm just saying I've seen people whose kids have died from drug overdoses.
I know what you're saying. I agree with you too on that, but I doubt she was actually working any program because she does have the signs of a bad drug addict. I mean, just the behavior that she had, it was horrible. Like
like I said, I have a sneaking suspicion that she was probably using a lot of stimulants because the job of being a CEO at a place like, say, Google or YouTube was probably very rigorously demanding. But anyway, let's just get into the first topic here. We usually don't take this long to get into it, but there was a lot of stuff to cover. There's a lot of opening stuff to cover. We had to mercilessly, for instance, roast Rierson because he's going to go have some lovey kissy time with space aliens. But anyway,
bullshit.
Okay.
Sounds like someone's got a date with Lursen Beitor.
Ooh.
Again, I'm going to say bullshit.
All right. So topic number 1, and when I saw this, I knew it had to be the top of the order. Garm over the last couple of years, going to start out with the fact that at the moment Elon Musk bought Twitter, there was a very large mass exodus of online commercial sponsors that all just exited Twitter, usually under some very odd circumstances. The one that really stands out, and the one I think that really got them in trouble, and I think this Garm may have been indirectly responsible for that, was the one where I'm trying to remember which organization it was that kept trying to kept refreshing the page until they got a page where the ad appeared next to quote unquote white supremacist, and then they found out then Elon Musk went through his accounts and noticed that they had refreshed until they'd gotten the actual one that they had, and immediately started launching a lawsuit. And so there's been a consistent, concerted effort since Elon Musk bought Twitter to undermine it financially. And of course, it's kind of a hard thing to do. As I mean, Elon Musk, I'm not totally sold on Elon Musk by any stretch of the imagination, but Elon Musk, the Twitter that currently exists now is by far better than the one that existed under Jack Dorsey. For instance, one of the things that occurred, and I have noticed this with Twitter, is that, the way the algorithm worked with Twitter before, when Jack Dorsey was in charge, was that it gave the appearance as though there was a huge groundswell of support for the transgender community. Under Elon Musk, that is no longer the case, right? It's like, and it's been the same thing with political figures. When political figures post, right, it's the most popular or the most upvoted content that usually makes it up to the top of things, not the fix on the other one. So yeah, the Krasensteins have had to whore themselves out a little bit more and lie a little bit more effectively now, because they can't just wait for Trump to tweet and then post up, "You're going to go to jail, Donald," in order to get the publicity that they want now. On the other end with Rumble, there was the situation with Rumble where Russell Brand got accused of something, and there was this strangely coordinated attempt to get Russell Brand deplatformed off of all of these sites. And of course, Rumble and Twitter, hold on a second. Rumble and Twitter refused to toe the line. Now, what ended up happening with Rumble is that out of the blue, all of a sudden, all of these advertisers just pulled out of Rumble because they had Russell Brand on it. At the time, that looked coordinated. Now, what ended up happening is that about 2 weeks ago, there was an actual congressional hearing led by Jim Jordan. Now, usually when you see stuff out of Washington, D.C., you'll get your sound bite. They'll be exposed, just like the Twitter files, and that'll be it. What happened this time, though, is that Jim Jordan asked for and got long amounts of communication from several companies, and I'm trying to remember specifically. I think yes, that's right. It was Dunkin' Donuts and one particular advertiser who advertised for multiple alcohols, Captain Morgan, Smirnoff, a few others, and it confirmed some of the stuff that confirmed the emails that in particular Rumble had gotten from Dunkin' Donuts, of all places, saying that Dunkin' Donuts would not support or would not advertise on Rumble unless it got, and this is no word of a lie, unless it dumped Steven Crowder. Now, it turns out, thanks to the info dump that Jim Jordan demanded, that there's an actual line of communication between GARM and Dunkin' Donuts and the advertising agency that represents all of these liquors, specifically saying that you should not be supporting Rumble or Twitter because ... So the CEO of Rumble and Elon Musk got together, and a few days ago they went, okay, yeah, we're going to sue the fuck out of GARM. GARM's response was to fold up like a house of cards. Now, the first thing that crossed my mind when that happened is, yeah, of course, right? GARM was an organization that is only effective when it's in the shadows. The moment it has to come out into the open and actually engage in a fight, especially against somebody like, say, Elon Musk, who's got deep pockets, so that GARM, even with George Soros backing them, they can't outspend Elon Musk in court. Like, they can't drown him with a whole bunch of lawyers. And they definitely can't do it with both Rumble and X combining forces. So GARM closed up shop, probably in an attempt to protect themselves legally. I don't really think it's going to work, but it was one of the things that I've noticed is that when it comes to this, it's like, yeah, right, like this is something that needs to happen a little bit more often, right? Like all of these organizations, like for instance, George Soros goes to great lengths to hide the contributions that he makes to those woke DAs in Chicago and San Francisco and St. Louis and Philadelphia and New York and all of those places, right? He goes to great lengths to hide that stuff, right? And as much as I hate to say having to rely on the core, and I mean, of course, right, they've got the deep pockets to challenge an individual doing it, but the landscape changed now because now you have people on this side of the fence that have sufficient financial resources to go after them that, say, George Soros and company cannot simply outspend in the courtroom. And that changes the dynamics. So I don't know how much of an impact this is going to have long term. There's going to be more, because I mean, Robbie Stiles, we were just covering Harley Davidson I think it was last week. And, there's at least one other company, I'm trying to remember the name of it right now, that I think is going to find themselves in really serious doo-doo because they also have a rather strongly conservative base and have also embraced DEI. And I think Robbie Starbuck is probably sniffing them out right now as well. I can't remember what the name of that particular company is right now. But yeah, I won't get in too much into DEI, but I've done some looking into it in the past week or two. The foundation of DEI is based on something called the McKinsey study, and as I have recently only in the last couple weeks found out, the McKinsey study, which is the basis for DEI, is the same functional equivalent to the bot science that we saw around the COVID vaccines. And with that, I am going to turn it over to, I think I said Kelso goes second. Yeah, Kelso. So I'm going to turn it over to Kelso.
Yeah, well, I don't have too much to say other than the obvious. Like, I don't really trust Elon Musk either, but yeah, I mean, what you said about my Twitter is true. It's definitely a better Twitter under Musk than it was under Dorsey. I just kind of look at it like this: like it's all part of the show. It's all part of the bread and circuses, WWE, and you can't just only have a bad guy and that's it, right? Like you gotta make it look like there's good guys and bad guys duking it out with each other. And in this particular case, which one's good and which one's bad really just kind of depends on, I guess, how mentally ill or not someone is. Like, obviously, the more mentally ill go towards the things that look more like tyranny as being the righteous good guys, and the people that are less mentally ill go more towards what looks like the freedom being the righteous good guys. But it's it's two sides of the same thing. It's kind of like when people debate and bitch about, oh, should gay marriage be legal or not? Well, guess what? How about a stance of no matter which one you pick, you're still voting for government to run your life? How about just government butt out of like the whole marriage process completely? Like it should be none of their business. So, it's the same sort of thing. It's one of those things that no matter which side you root for, you're still rooting for the powers that be having a control hold on you. It's just you've got different flavors of that ice cream, so to speak, and people can, well, pick their favorite, as it were. So yeah, I see it as all just a show, but within that theater there are truths, and yes, it is true that Twitter has, definitely at least had more relative freedom and less overt tyranny when compared to the Dorsey regime that was just kind of a woke playground. So, that's all just calling the sky blue to me. As far as the guilty until proven ultra wealthy state of the entire legal system, yes, it's good that at least as far as the show was concerned, that there are some people with money that are able to challenge other parties, like even Lewis Rossman, who created the Grey J app, is backed by Fudo, which is a wealthy organization that funds open source projects and things. And Rossman's got a lot of balls, so when YouTube sent him some threatening letters, he read them right out to, his viewers on the platforms he uses, and he literally boldly stated, like, hey, I'm backed by a multi-billion-dollar organization, so fuck around and find out. If you want to play the legal games, we can play, but out of the two of us, I'm the only one that's going to be having any fun playing that game. So, it's good to see that there is this sort of pushback from people against those that previously were thought to be, too big to fail, no one could possibly ... etc. And now there's pushback of like, hey, it's actually possible to stand in the face of these things, because even though the system is nothing more than a WWE show, it still has to have some sort of pretense, so it can't be totally like, oh, the rules don't apply, I'm just gonna, do whatever, say whatever, and it is as the oligarchs say. I mean, they have to like weasel it in and have plausible deniability in the face of, your average viewer out there on the outside looking in and going, what's going on? But yeah, I mean, things are definitely getting interesting, and all of this sort of fuckery is just, it's pushing the development even more for, truly fully decentralized networks. Even Odyssey in recent times has been on record, admitting that it's a mistake to want to focus on this platform or that platform. We need to start building the network upon which any and all other platforms, can reside. So Odyssey's been at work, they're going to be switching their stuff from LBR or LBC over to Arweave. So I'm not going to go into a full explanation about that. I'm just saying they're making changes to move things into increasingly more full decentralization. And really, in my opinion, Bastion, PocketNet, well, the network is PocketNet, the main front end is Bastion. But, they did it right from the get-go, fully decentralized from the start. There are no admins, no one's in charge of anything. There's just the programmers working on the infrastructure. The infrastructure simply works the way it works. You've got your passphrase encryption key to log in, and if you lose it, there is no clicking I forgot my password. If you lose it, you're screwed. But freedom comes with responsibility. So I have no problem with that. So this is really pushing more and more development into we need to move into full decentralization, because there's no way we can compete with things like, YouTube, Twitter, whomever on the more centralized front. But if you can get, some good foundational structures for fully decentralized network, as I've preached to thee many times, when you have that stability, you can put whatever platform on there, however, and the ruling class can't really do anything to screw with you because you've got like shit tons of decentralized nodes everywhere. So there's no point of control and no point of fail. So all this other fuckery with YouTube, with Twitter, with all this stuff going on, and now you've got like the whole CrowdStrike thing that's literally having more regular people looking into switching to Linux, which has been freaking hilarious. And the new feature on Windows 11 that literally records every image, every keystroke, full-on screen capture, algorithmic processing and databasing. But they're like, oh no, that just remains on your computer. We're totally not looking at that data. And it's turned off by default, and you have to go out of your way to turn it on. But that's just a tiptoe step in the direction of Microsoft could just be like, okay, it's on all the time, and we harvest all your data, and if you don't like it, go fuck yourself. So people are seeing this stuff, it's really creeping them out, and they're like, oh my god, what can I do? And so more and more people are looking at Linux. Just like as the social media fuckery continues, more and more people are getting more serious about fully decentralized networks. So the ending point is that the Streisand effect should be a law of physics. You've heard me say it before. I'll say it again. It should be officially an officially acknowledged law of physics. Fuck around and find out. Enter the Streisand effect. So that's all I got to say about that.
Roger, are you back yet? I guess not. Okay, Roger had to go to the bathroom. So V, you can fill in for Roger. Then we'll go V, Roger, Roger, and then Rearson.
Yeah, well, I don't have much to say on this one. The exception that, well, I mean, when you have a company, a brand, and it starts bullying other companies that it has no investment in, of saying we're gonna pull our content if such and such is on your platform. Well, goodbye. That's what I would tell them.
Well, that's what Rumble did tell them, but continue.
Well, I mean, the whole point of what I'm trying to do with TLB Talk, I'm going to be getting people on. I mean, it's user-supported platform. So there's not going to be anybody giving me ultimatums or giving any of my partners ultimatums. It's just simply not going to work that way. You want to advertise, you can advertise. You want some special advertisement, you can pay us a little money. That's fine. You're not going to control what is said and the content of what's on the site. These companies that do that kind of stuff, they need to be canceled for them trying to cancel somebody. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's unconscionable. It's amoral. Platforms are supposed to have freedom of speech, which they don't. So again, that's why I'm working on tlbtalk.com right now. And, for the people, by the people, with the people. when these corporations forget where they came from, they forget who built their house. Okay? The only thing a corporation should do is either advertisement or just begging for customers. Customers are always right. They should, that's like, I mean, if we let them do this kind of stuff, what's the next step? Starbucks is going to buy a police force, roam the streets, force you to listen to propaganda about coffee and how you need 3 cups a day, shake you down,
buy our
your
coffee
money,
or it's a year in jail.
That's where it's headed.
Well, I mean, if I could just step in. I could just step in here for a second. What you'll start to see is what you'll start to see. And I mean, I'm not a big fan of Lauren Southern, but what you'll start to see is companies punishing relatives, spouses, and so on and so forth for something that another person did, which is what happened with Airbnb a few months back. Continue, V.
Absolutely. Yeah. I understand. I mean, and it's about image. It's about how you look to the public. I applauded companies for firing people because their social network profiles, somebody saying something racist, somebody saying something sexist, somebody's putting up harassment videos of other people, and then guess what? Their employers axed them. Why? Because they want to keep a better image. So if they're going to have such scrutiny over other people, they need to keep their own image polished. I think they're losing sight of that. So it's a shame. I mean, we know what happened with Chick-fil-A, right? Rumors of racism, rumors of just discrimination, right? We know what happened with the Cracker Barrel, right? Rumors of racism and discrimination. I've been in both of those restaurants quite recently. I want to say a couple months ago. Both restaurants now have pictures up covering their walls with people, family, friends, old times, sports, your girls' soccer teams, and half of those pictures have Black people in them. I don't know if you want to call it getting woke, but I call it just inclusivity and not being an a-hole. So, but whenever these companies start taking political stances and persecuting certain individuals, that's not their place. I should be able to like whoever I want to like and then buy your product. But if you're gonna tell me I can't like somebody that I like, I'm not gonna buy your product. It doesn't even matter who it is, just the principle of the matter. So we as a society, we shouldn't be canceling personalities and people per se, but we need to start canceling corporations and not just boycotting. Obviously, got to replace them as well with something better. So, I mean, that's the only thing I want to add to this. Oh, just on time. That's your turn, Roger. Go ahead.
Oh well.
That's why we need grassroots business, and for people to take that more seriously, and people need to start not only becoming more self-sufficient with what they're good at, but buying and selling and trading. I know that
not getting into pandemic crap that destroys small businesses, mom and pop shops. Stop getting into that. Go
I
ahead.
know that on the PocketNet network, there's somebody working on an app that runs on it that's essentially going to be like an eBay of sorts, but using Pocket Coin. So like that's one of many good ways to get around the corporations. Anything we can do ourselves and not have to rely on them, let's do it. Whatever that is, whatever that looks like.
Amen. Okay, Roger, you're up.
Now, when it comes to GARM, I mean, that's a good news that they're going out of business. But the real bad guy out of this is the WFA, who is actually sponsoring GARM, and they are the ones that are. It's yeah, okay, GARM's gone, but guess what? The WFA is still there, and they're going to be coming back with something eventually. I don't agree with this whole thing with this advertising crap anyhow, because like you guys were saying when I got back on here, the industry is just saturated with these advertisers, and a lot of them are pretty shady. I mean, it's really messed up how much control they have over these platforms, and you've even said it. It seems like it was organized. It's organized, and it's uh, it can't be like every advertiser on X that's involved in this stuff. You know what I mean? So it's coordinated by a small group of interest group of people that are doing this stuff, and that's the one thing that got me about the woman who ran YouTube is she was real big on trying to stifle free speech on YouTube, but then on the other hand she was so woke it was pathetic. Like she would make it to where they had gay pride flags freaking waving on your channel when it was freaking gay pride week and everything. So she was pretty much telling you what it was all about. It was about what they wanted people to see, and it really wasn't about what was harmful. Because that's what this group was supposed to be about. It was supposed to be about getting rid of terrorists from getting on these websites and getting into the advertisements and stuff and putting them on these websites, because it was a real bad issue at one time. That's what it was supposed to be about, but it went farther and they started stifling what people could say and what people couldn't. And that's where I think they crossed the line. Now, it's like I said, WFA is still around though, and I think that the best solution to this is kind of what Dave was talking about, and he gave me feedback on something that Odyssey has just gotten into when it comes to R-Wave, and me, Mark Edworthy, and Tanhai Tran have been doing some deep diving on this, and they actually, if they can pull it off without screwing it up, they actually are coming up with a solution. You know what I mean? Advertising that has nothing to do with advertising. Like whenever you watch a video, you're monetizing them by just watching their video. You know what I mean? And it's using cryptocurrency. From what I can tell, that's what it looks like. So that would literally just get rid of advertisers altogether. You know what I mean? And I think solutions like that are the way of going. And people just, it's these platforms, even the alt tech platforms, they seem to think that freaking they have to rely on advertisement to freaking get their platform going. And how many people are watching videos and the activities that are going on their platforms, that like that's supposed to be important, for them, because that's the way the system is set up. Well, it's getting out of hand, and the fact that X was able to, and Rumble was able to win a lawsuit against these guys, it's a big deal. It really is. But I think it needs to go further. I've been having issues with Minds Gaming and a couple of people that I've been working with them on. They've been coming up with tokens that they've created on uh, on a website, and they wanted to use that as a form of monetization for people who are wanting to do tokens. Well, they're setting it up to where it's just like on Mines, with Mines offline tokens, they're not worth anything, you know what I mean? And when people like go on Mines Plus and they want to frickin' monetize with Mines Plus, that's what they're doing it for. They're not doing it for better quality videos. Anybody who's been on Mines knows that Mines Plus's videos are just as shitty as what the regular platform is. You know what I mean? If not worse. They're going on there because they want to make money off of it, and that's what it's about. It's not about these make-believe off-chain freaking tokens that helps you boost. You know what I mean? People don't get Minds Plus for that kind of shit. They want to be able to freaking make money off of it, And the thing is like Minds Gaming has the same idea where him and a lot of people on these platforms have this idea where it's supposed to be some horrible thing if the person wants to make money off of their content. That they should put this stuff out for free. And I'm like, that's nonsense, dude. I mean, because for me personally, I like putting my content out, don't get me wrong and everything, but when somebody freaking says that freaking I put this content out and that I should just do it for free and that my content isn't worth anything, then that makes me freaking not want to do it. And
Hey, Roger.
Yeah.
The other side of that coin too, pun intended. Like when it comes to like things like the idea of a site-specific token that has no other monetary translation to anything else, I think that in certain situations, those are fine as long as what you're using it for is providing a service that is replacing something that you would have otherwise spent money on in your life. Refer to like the eBay, example, just as an example. As long as that system is literally replacing some other system that you would have to spend money on, then the old saying is a penny saved is a penny earned. So sometimes not having to spend money on something that you normally would have to spend money on, it could in and of itself be considered a form of profit in a sense, because now that money you didn't spend, if you want to, you could put that in a lockbox under your bed if you'd like,
Yeah. Well, the thing too is people don't really think about the other obvious stuff. Like this computer I have, okay, I've spent over $1,200 just to get this freaking computer set up and ready to go, and I'd like to be able to make that money back. I didn't build this computer because I freaking wanted to get on these platforms and, have fun and, get these make-believe tokens that aren't worth any money, So I have a tendency of when I pay for something, I want to freaking get my money back and then maybe make a profit off of it. You know what I mean? I don't want to freaking just sit around on the internet and play around, because if anybody notices, that's what I like to do. I like to edit my videos. I like to freaking do computer graphics. I've started playing around with AI, but I'm not really keen on it. I think that computer graphics is better quality. It just takes longer to do, so I still play around with it, but I'm not really impressed by it one bit. Besides that, I like to freaking live stream. I've started doing that in the last year. And what I think when it comes to cryptocurrency, though, cryptocurrency is the best way of getting out of this whole geared system to where freaking these advertisers have reign over what we can and we can't freaking do on the internet. And I think Odyssey's on its right, going in the right direction with it when it comes to that. For me, I would like it's on Mint Me is what Lines Gaming is messing around with. Now, if I could turn around and figure out a way of getting those tokens to where I could transfer them over and actually be able to convert them into actual cryptocurrency, that would be cool. But at this moment, I'm still trying to work on that and work it out and see where it's in, because I've figured out how to do it with mine's online tokens so far, and that's a start. Once I do that, then I'll be able to freaking actually get it to where content creators can actually share content and they can get my WoW coin, and then we could trade back and forth and they can cash out on it, you know. But I'm not in this for the freebies, you know what I mean?
I think an important thing that people need to understand about crypto and tokens and all that stuff that I think tends to fly over most people's heads is that the value of a crypto is directly dependent on exactly what you're using it for. And the ability to trade it out for other currencies is only one valid use. There's many others, you know. Like I said, if you're using it to create an internal site market where real goods and services that actually have value that you would have had to pay other money for are available there instead for that crypto, like, yeah, if a crypto is useful for anything practical, then it has value. If it's not useful for anything practical, then it's just like a virtue signal coin and doesn't really do anything.
Right. And that's what I'm trying to avoid too, because like, you know, the thing of it is like everybody has this mentality that freaking they need to go to work at a freaking warehouse and freaking work for real money at a warehouse when their true passion is art. Okay. My whole thing about it is why can't an artist freaking work at being an artist instead of freaking and get paid for it rather than going off to a warehouse doing a freaking 9 to 5 job as a freaking as a warehouse worker? Don't you think the world would be better if freaking there was more artists who were getting paid for what they're doing? You know, stuff like that. And I think that's the kind of thinking that everybody has. You know, they go off, they get freaking the 40-hour-a-week job, they come home, and then they funnel their money into the internet for free. You know, I mean, you know, I think that's nonsense.
Well, how many programmers are bagging groceries at Walmart because they're not woke enough to work at Google? I mean, it's a problem.
Yeah, it is. It's a real big problem. You know, I think that's something that really does need to be looked at, you know. Give these people the ability to freaking make money off of the things they love doing. So for that, I will pass.
Okay,
I think the other problem on the people's end, can't blame the corporations for this one, is, you know, the lack of unity. If people were less prone to have dramatic arguments with each other over nothing the second someone disagrees with someone else and we're really more unity driven, then all these, you know, different programmers or whatever the field is, if it's not programming, if it's art or livestock, whatever the hell it is, you know, instead of bitching at people over, you know, whether orange hair is bad or not, you know, or whatever the fuck people like to argue about, why not, you know, come together and pull together? So, you know, half the reason that's not happening is because so many people with talent, whether it's artistic or farming, or they know a lot about how to use guns or whatever it is, pick your in-person real life, you know, thing. This lack of unity prevents them from coming together, because together they'd be able to make it. Together they'd be able to compete against the corporations. Together they'd be able to do what they're wanting to do. And, you know, don't get me wrong, some people do figure this out and they do great, wonderful things, but they're the extreme minority who figure it out. Just imagine if most of these people with talent figured it out and started doing it. The ruling class would shit their pants overnight if that happened.
Okay, all right. Rearson, you're up.
What? Really? Me? Okay, cool.
Yes, you.
Well, something like this was bound to happen. I mean, we kind of got a sample of it, I guess is the best way to say it, with Elon Musk saying hi, Bob, and whatever else that had gone on there. But if I remember correctly, he more or less took pot shots at Disney for pulling advertising from X because, well, they didn't like it. And so now that there's another organization that has, in one form or another, taken a page out of what Iger has done or did, this really shouldn't be all that surprising. And I know that we'll get to this, but Musk doesn't really care about money at this point, and if he's going to be doing something, if someone has slighted him or someone he feels that he can back up, he's shown the tenacity that, well, he's going to go for it. And so it's another reason for me to be stopping this to get working my tickle in my throat. And it's not because I've got a gimp suit on. Anyway, they know that he means business. So yeah, did they fold up like a house of cards? Yeah, it didn't take very much. I mean, it was almost enough of that Elon Musk had to fart in their general direction. They just kind of went, oh shit, we're going to be done for. So, while the organization itself may be over and done with, I won't be the least bit surprised that they have enough of a list of names of people that they can go after and will go after, regardless of Garm being in existence or not. And all things being equal at this point, people are getting tired of all of the woke shit. You can't do this, you can't do that, and don't you dare say this, and don't you dare say that. It's really starting to come to a boiling point, in my honest opinion. And like him or hate him, say what you will about Musk, I have mixed feelings about the individual. I'll leave it at that. But what has to be done here has to be done. It sucks that we have people that feel the need to police us or have groupthink, but I mean, shit, look what's happening in the UK. I think we're going to get to that. Australia's not really too far behind Canada. It is not far behind to what the UK is doing. So we have to push back, and we have to take back what we've given away. So I guess that's really about all I'm going to say on that one. So,
do you have a permit to suck on that Klingon titty, Governor?
No, and if I don't, what are you going to do about it? Huh?
Cry like Klaus Schwab, saying the people don't trust us anymore.
Dude, oh my goodness, those were some really, really crazy English accents.
Yes, they were. So yeah, I like I say, the only thing I'm going to add about Garm is that this is your typical skulking in the shadows, really having everybody else do their dirty work for them. And the moment the spotlight gets shined on them, they immediately start running off because it's like they don't have the stomach for a fight. And yeah, somebody will eventually come back. It'll come back in some other form. In fact, I'm fully expecting that they're going to try to come back at it, but it won't be. They'll have to be even more clandestine than they were before, and they just won't have. It just won't come back to the same level of effectiveness, because I mean, it's going to take them probably at least a year to lick their wounds and come up with something, and by then, it's like, I mean, yeah. I have a feeling it's going to be a much different North America in about 12 months from now. That's just me.
Folks, that just goes to show that if you're dealing with fully decentralized networking, none of this shit would be possible to happen, because who are you going to threaten to sue or threaten to pull ad revenue from, or threaten anything when a network is made up of millions of decentralized nodes all over the world, most of whom are just regular people just using, the service, but hey, it's a fully decentralized network, so everything is spread across it. No point of control, no point of fail, no one to threaten to pull revenue from, no one you can sue, no one you can throw in jail. It's a network of millions. Go fuck yourself. You can't do anything anymore. Yay.
Yeah, well, when we get to Britain, actually, we will be covering that. But yeah, let's move on, because we went on for that one. I kind of figured we were going to go on. These are some interesting topics, but they're definitely something we can get long-winded about. So let's get on with the next one here. The next one is also, again, I'm not overly surprised that this happened. I'm going to remind everybody that the moment the Freedom Convoy showed up in Ottawa, Justin Trudeau ran away like a little bitch to Gabriola. And he did immediately go down. In fact, now there's a record of it, of him having met with and spoken to, specifically around the blockade of the Ambassador Bridge is the big one, which was actually affecting American business. But I mean, during the convoy, and I mean, it didn't really affect me or Rearson or any of us here, because we knew where to go and look to get our information. What they really tried to do, and what they're still attempting to do here, and this is something that got pointed out on Redacted when I saw the story there, is that the media, the alt media in the U.S. and people in the U.S. and people in foreign countries were having a very, unless you knew specifically where to look, it was very difficult to get some decent information. Keep in mind, this was very early on when Elon Musk, I think Elon Musk still actually wasn't in full control of Twitter at that point. The Canadian government tried everything to play this off as white supremacist. They tried to play this off as misogynist. They pulled every trick in the book.
Those white supremacist bouncy castles were so menacing.
Yeah, I was terrified. Yeah, it's the Sikh and black white supremacists. I was waiting for Clayton Bigsby to show up here at one point. Oh, the one that I really loved was the guy who showed up with the Confederate flag at the Ottawa convoy. It's like, and I don't mean to disrespect people that live in the Deep South, but sorry. I mean, there's kind of a indirect kind of a kinship to a certain degree between Canadians and the Deep South.
What the fuck is the Confederate flag doing in Canada, dude? Seriously.
Yeah, and it was that was exactly the guy who tried that.
It has no place there. Now, I can understand the "Don't Tread on Me" flag. I think anybody should be able to use that universally. But the Confederate flag does not belong in Canada.
Yeah. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Or the guy who happened to wave around that Nazi flag right in front of Justin Trudeau's personal photographer. That one was extra special. Or the ones, and my personal favorite, the people who unfurled the Nazi flag at the Redo Canal, but the only way you could have gotten to that spot to do that was to have somebody, because that particular section where they did that, you had to have someone from security inside of the Capitol Hill unlock the doors to let you do it. Also, and this is another curious little
Oh
detail.
well, not to mention all that Nazi footage at these places are never on the official websites for these Nazis because these Nazis don't have official websites because they're all off-duty cops. I mean, I'm sure that's just a massive
Yeah,
coincidence.
oh yeah. Well, speaking of off-duty cops, that's what I was getting to. David Menzies got arrested for challenging Chrystia Freeland, and the guy who arrested him, his likeness was found participating in a Nazi flag waving during the event. So there was a whole bunch of stuff. It was difficult to get accurate information. They did everything they could to try to prevent. By the way, this is where I don't think not Give Send Go, GoFundMe. This was the event, and this is the one thing we can actually be grateful for. This was the event that caused GoFundMe to lose most of their legitimacy. GoFundMe was never the same after that event. Everybody figured out that if you wanted to do crowd fundraisers, you went to Give Send Go, not GoFundMe. So GoFundMe basically lost its teeth. Now, the issue that was going on with this is that, I mean, yeah, there was and of course, right, because the ironic way in which they found out, there was a guns rights group in the U.S. that wanted to find out whether they were on the radar being watched by Homeland Security. So they put in a Freedom of Information request with the government. They got the receipts. They found out that yes, indeed they were. But among the things they found out was the fact that there was a lot of stuff around the Freedom Convoy. So they sent it off to a reporter. And this reporter was also an American. He didn't really know what was going on either, but he sent it to a reporter in Canada and said, like, yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff in this that talks about collusion between the Biden administration, Silicon Valley, specifically Meta, not so much because Twitter had been kind of backing off a little bit because Elon Musk was in the process of buying them at that point, but Twitter and Google and so forth, right? And there's a lot of information here about the convoy. And I mean, you need to take a look at it. When they took a look at it, it was like, oh, wow. So, yeah, again, it wasn't a problem for any of us. But if you didn't know where to look, and most people don't, and that's one of the things that I try to do on a regular and daily basis when I do talk to people about this sort of thing, I always mention the alt media sources and how to get onto different, well, not necessarily DuckDuckGo now because DuckDuckGo is compromised, but Brave is pretty good. And
Naroki, you just reminded me. There's no specific details on this yet, but it is official. Gray J is working on a desktop app. That's going to be a game changer.
Who fucking Ray? Yes, if Gray J gets a desktop app, I am totally signing on. By the way, Bruce, and I'm going to have to talk to you about getting Gray J for the phone, but that's for another conversation. The whole situation with this is that it was all like, I mean, again, much like the first topic where it was like, yeah, it looks like there's some collusion going on there, right? And the Twitter files is like, yeah, it looks like there's some collusion going on there, right? And then they get some information, and then lo and behold, there is some collusion going on. I wouldn't, like, for instance, I'm going a little bit off topic here, but it wouldn't surprise me at some point that somebody does a Freedom of Information request about the media and finds out that there is some collusion going on around Project Veritas. Then they got rid of James O'Keefe, but that's a sidebar. Yes, they did collude. It mostly started when the Ambassador Bridge got blocked, and it was actually affecting American production because they needed to get their stuff across the border into Canada and weren't able to do it. But yes, if you were thinking that there was collusion from the Biden administration, with the help with at Trudeau's request and probably at Biden's request in regards to censoring the information around the Freedom Convoy, we now have it. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kelso.
Yeah, I mean, it simply just doesn't surprise me. And as Gray J continues to get better, and more people find out about it and use it, you're going to have less and less of that, problem that you mentioned about, most people being on mainstream social media. So it's, it takes more time for these things to push through on places like Facebook and so on, just because of all of the censorship and these sorts of things like what you're describing going on. Whereas with Gray J, you search things out, and unless you specifically like disable Odyssey or disable Rumble or whatever, like if you unless you choose not to have those activated, as long as you have all the different platforms it supports, toggled on, then when you do a search, you're not going to get the filtering happening that social media likes to do. I've also heard, and again, I don't know a lot about this, but I've also heard that Gray J is also currently working on support for articles. So I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but I would imagine that similarly to how all the different video and audio sources are pulled in through plugins, there's going to be something similar with supporting the articles. And I imagine that would probably include, like, eventually, like, how you can create an article on Minds, you can create an article on Bastion, but then you also have articles from mainstream and non-mainstream sources, InfoWars, whatever. So and Wikipedia and et cetera, the list goes on, wikis in general. So I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. It's been kind of more vaguely discussed, similar to the whole desktop app thing, but it's kind of like, yeah, we're doing it, but more specific details are not available yet. I personally see Gray J as morphing into an app that, just like, when you look at most social media walls or whatever you want to call it, it's isolated into sections. You've got your photos and you've got your videos and you've got this and you've got that, these different sections. I see in the future, maybe within the next 5 years, the Gray J doing something similar. You're going to have a section for articles and video and audio, and like it's going to start to section off like that as it continues to support more and more things, which I think will be great, because all this algorithmic censorship BS has been a long-standing problem, and when Gray J gets more sophisticated and becomes more mainstream and known to your average person, that's definitely going to be a game changer. And then it won't matter how much Biden and Trudeau sit in their little safe space together and whine about how, we oligarchs don't like freedom. Wah. It won't really make a difference, because they won't be able to stop things like Gray J or fully decentralized networking, save from, pulling the plug on the internet completely. But barring that, there's not much they can do about it. So once again, Streisand effect is in full effect. More of this information comes out, more people see it, more people are like, what the fuck? And more people start feeling more motivated to start doing things about it. Because unfortunately, even within the so-called truth movement, even though there's a lot of people with a lot of great talent who could do a lot, there is kind of a complacency, waiting to be saved factor, and there's also the whole drama factor. And so, yeah, tyranny needs to continue to heat up to light the fire under people's asses, and it just Streisand effect kicks in. And as that happened, it's kind of like Princess Leia said to Governor Tarkin in Star Wars: A New Hope. The more you tighten your grip, the more star systems will slip through your fingers. So the more tyranny you impose, the more options for taking back freedom there is, and the more backfires there are. So um, I think we're just going to be seeing more and more and more of these sorts of things. The more tyranny doubles down, the yet another wave of awakening happens. And that's another thing. People talk about the awakening, mass awakening and things like that. Yes, there is one, but it happens in waves, and it's very slow. It's like being in a deep sleep and suddenly someone throws an ice cold bucket of water over you. Like, it's not like you're going to instantly wake up and start running a marathon. And the 5 stages of grief and the 5 stages of paradigm shift are the same thing, because instead of mourning uh, another person, or mourning the fact that you've only got 6 months left to live or something like that, you're mourning the death of belief systems about reality that you used to cherish and have now been proven to be bullshit. And so yeah, I mean, it's a process. It happens in waves. So this is kind of a forest fire that has to burn itself out. The self-destructive people will continue to self-destruct, and the people that really want to move in better directions of awakening and healing and cooperation and unity, and not the virtue signaled World Economic Forum kind that wants you to eat the bugs and know nothing and be happy, but the kind where people come together and pool their talents and creativity and do really awesome shit that makes a difference. You're going to see more of that keep happening as tyranny continues to double down and triple down and quadruple down and foam at the mouth and tantrum. So yeah, just expect more of that. It's the process. Hang in there, do your best to survive, and don't become collateral damage of the woke or the oligarchs. But yeah, other than that, just hang in there. There's a bright side at the end of it, but we got to go through a lot of garbage first. But that's okay. It's like shoveling manure on a farm. It fucking stinks. It's nasty. It's messy. It's yucky. It's terrible. But at the end of the day, the plants do grow better as a result of shoveling all of that into the field.
Roger, you're up.
All right. So, for me, I I see it as not just that incident. That right there, what really stuck out to me was, what was it? You guys had that emergency plan that they came out with, and they found out later that it was uncalled for. Like, it wasn't necessary. They made accusations that weren't true. And what they did is they tried to make these trucker protesters out to be like terrorists and freaking or Hitler and anti-Semitic and all this stuff, when in reality none of it was true. And you'll see the same thing happening here in the United States. Like, I'm not big on the whole immigration and illegals and stuff like that, but I can say that they did the same tactics against people who were against freaking illegals coming across the border and stuff. And this all goes back to Europe. That they've been doing the same thing in France whenever the farmers over there was protesting against the green projects that the EU is trying to force on them. They started making these accusations that these people were freaking, terrorists, and they were wanting to, attack the government and shit like that. And basically what it was is it's a populist movement that's going on, and these people are terrified of it. They're completely terrified of it. And I think what it is yeah, people are sick and tired of what's happening today, and I keep saying this, and everybody thinks that freaking I'm talking about just the woke when I say that socialism is the problem. And I'm not talking about just the Labor Party. I'm talking about the National Socialists, all of that stuff. Ever since World War II, I'd say even before that, right around the end of World War One, socialism has always been the constant problem. Okay, and the thing that people have to understand is socialism. These socialist groups don't get along. okay? You have the National Socialists, and when you hear everybody talking about border patrol and freaking illegals coming over and taking over our country, those aren't conservatives. Those are National Socialists, okay? And there is a difference.
Sorry, if I may briefly mention for those listening that want to know a lot more about that sort of stuff without us spending an extra 3 hours on the subject, people can look up a guy by the name of Yuri Bezmenov. He was interviewed back in the 80s, and he's practically a prophet as far as the shit that's happening today versus what he said. But he talks all about socialist and communist infiltration into the West, how all that works, the effect of that. Like, it's really good stuff. And so, for anybody who has not looked at the Yuri Bezmenov interviews, there are several, and they can be found on YouTube sometimes. But if you look on places like Odyssey, BitChute, Rumble, etc., you will absolutely, definitely find them there. And it's good stuff. It really is. I've watched it myself, and
I've actually watched it too. He's very educational with it too. He'll break it down and tell you exactly this is what they do and this is.
He had a tragic end though.
Yeah.
Because when he first came over here, he didn't realize just how infiltrated the United States already was. So the United States wasn't interested in hearing anything he had to say. The government, nobody. So it immediately dawned on him, shit, they've already been infiltrated. Otherwise, they would want to know. So he actually had to, go live in Canada. And the only person that was interested in dealing with him was that one interview who made all the before-mentioned recordings. So he just kind of progressively became more and more of an alcoholic and depressed until he died, because he thought he was coming here to provide vital information to the American government to help save the USA. And then, bam, reality check, like he arrived too late, already fully infiltrated. And so it sent him spiraling into depression.
Yep. And, the thing of it is like whenever you take a look at that stuff, like everybody, when they hear the word socialism, they think it's communism. And they have to understand that freaking socialism isn't just communism. Like socialism is the EU 100%. When you talk about socialism, it's all about the Labor Party. It's all about freaking unions, unionization, the workers.
Well, if I may say, it's a progression, because seeing as government itself is not a system to help you, it's a weapon system against you. Things devolve in this direction. First, you have a republic that devolves into a democracy, which I call communism light, which then devolves into socialism, which is, the EU, etc., those sorts of things like you're talking about, which then devolves into communism, which then devolves into fascism. And once you hit fascism, it could take any form that any dystopian science fiction movie wants to go in the direction of.
Yeah. And then, like with fascism, a lot of people think that fascism was separate from it, and all fascism is a way of monopolizing freaking socialist governments. Like you take a socialist program and you monopolize it to where only a certain group of people are able to freaking work those jobs. That becomes a form of fascism.
Monopolizing is a perfect word that you use there, because as Mussolini himself stated, the most efficient and I'm paraphrasing, of course, the most efficient and perfect form of fascism is the total marriage between the corporations and the state. And that is the world we live in, regardless of what country you live in. It doesn't matter if you're living in the United States, Canada, China, the EU, Russia, it doesn't matter. We've got the marriage of the corporations and the government. You can't tell the difference between the two. They're like one and the same now, the frickin' oligarchy. So Mussolini said that. So that's exactly spot on. Correct.
Okay,
yep.
Roger. Yeah, let's have Roger finish here, because we still got V and Rusin to go here. Okay.
Now, the last part of it is like this thing about you hear the word radical and radicalism all over the place, and people don't realize that that's been around since like the American Revolution. Okay. Radicals have been in France and the United States, and what happened is these socialist groups have learned how to take radicalism and kind of merge it into their own insane freaking type of setup that they've got going on here. It's so hard to even try to explain what this is in today's world. It's kind of like a marriage of all these different kinds of political views into this really crazy kind of situation. So when you have woke, what you've got are a bunch of these people who have incorporated radicalism into socialist policies, and you're going to find it everywhere. If you go against the grain and you speak against these people for what they're trying to do, you're going to be pinned as a freaking anti-Semite. You're going to be a terrorist. You're going to be somebody who loves Hitler, dressing up in the SS suits and shit. They're going to picture you that way because they don't want you to be heard. So that's what it basically comes down to with me.
Well, everything is radicalized today because modern radicalism is just anybody who disagrees with you on anything, call him Hitler, call him Stalin, put him in the enemy camp. No one's allowed to think differently. That's today's. It's political correctness and conformity on steroids, cranked up to 11, jumping so many sharks that we've run out of sharks.
Okay, are we done here? Can we move on to V?
Yes.
Okay, all right, V, you're up.
Well, for the sake of brevity, this being a panel show, I don't have all night to be here. Biden actually tried to put a censorship czar on us. That Jankowicz.
Truth
like
pig! Truth pig!
Yeah.
I love pig. She's a
pig. Oh, by the way, yeah, Jankowicz was tied into what happened with the with this convoy. Her name was prominently featured, and she was directly involved in the censorship. Continue, V.
Yeah. So, yeah. To get back on topic here, I fully believe that there's cooperation between the United States and the Canadian government on social issues. Absolutely. The United States government is so corrupt. Not so visibly, but internally, it's putrid, it's rotten. I mean, it's so bad, it'll kill flies if they land on it. But they got this nice, shiny wax on the outside here, and people don't understand that. Yes, they're gonna. The United States controls the whole continent, okay? Mexicans will not do anything. The Canadians will not do anything on this continent, without their say-so. Trudeau is just a puppet as Biden is. The bigger issues are, it's about the stakeholders. All right? I'm not talking stocks here. I'm talking about the upper echelon, the multi-billionaires who own the system, basically. So, yeah, of course, he actually got in with talks of censorship. Yeah, they tried to censor us, big time. And we need to be sure not to let that sort of thing happen. People, you need to get on tlbtalk.com. All right? So, with that, I'll pass.
V, create a Gray J plugin for the videos on TLB Talk. Do it now. Otherwise, your company's dumb. No offense. Just saying.
We got our things that are going to take us further in a lot of places. But go ahead, Roger.
Well,
Rear,
they made plugins easy. Go look. I mean, if you have even a tiny bit of programming skill, you can make a plugin. It's not hard. So, have somebody go do it over there,
Until I
man.
become stable, I don't see that being viable.
Okay, whatever. Fair enough.
And he's not stable.
nobody on this show is stable. But continue. Rearson.
Talk about Grey J. Once they become stable and people are actually using them, then they might be worth their time.
Yeah. I knew what you were talking about. I get it. But I'm just saying that allegedly they made creating a plugin so fucking easy that it would still be worth it. It should only like take a programmer like a half hour to make one. Like they made it ridiculously, stupidly easy. That's all I'm saying. Look into it or not. That's up to you.
Okay.
We'll see.
All
Go
right.
ahead, Roger.
Go ahead. Roger's
Rearson.
already Rearson. Go ahead, Rearson.
I guess the R's were confusing to some people here. Anyway, well, I mean, this really is not all that surprising. I mean, to go back to the 1984 novel when Winston's being detained and is just before he's going to be re-educated, reprogrammed, whatever you want to use to whatever you want to describe that. The gentleman with the party, the Big Brother, however you want to phrase it, he said that there are more of you than there are of us, but we have the element of surprise and we can single people out and that sort of thing. But if the plebs stood up and fought back, and it's kind of like what George Bush Sr. had said, is that if American people knew what they were up to, they'd get rounded up and lynched. Like, he knows that they'd all be dead, and they would, and they should have been.
Henry Ford said the same thing. He said if the American public understood our banking system, there would be revolution in the streets overnight.
Yep.
So,
and even I think it was either the New York mayor, or the New York governor, during the scamdemic, and he only said this once, and I haven't been able to find a clip since. They sure as hell haven't purposely repeated it out there. He admitted something. He said, we really can't do any mandates without the people's cooperation. If 14 million people just decided to say no thanks, there isn't a police force in the world that could do anything about it. Any laws you could pass, nothing. It's just done. So even he admitted that. And also the movie Ant Bully, the whole thing where the grasshoppers are talking, oh, it's just a puny little ant. And it, goes into the whole, well, if that ant gets all of his friends on board, our way of life is over.
Okay, yeah, all right. Yeah, Rearson, continue.
yeah, exactly. So, it takes a lot for Canadians to do anything. Let's be honest. It really does.
Hello? Rearson?
Here.
V left, Verson's still here. Yes, I was going to say the Declaration of Independence states that the people will suffer any evils for as long as they are sufferable. Once they're not sufferable, that's a game changer, and that's why we have revolutions. But,
Okay.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
Steve, continue.
Yeah, so to get Canadians off their collective ass, it is a monumental work. And it was done. Again, it wasn't so much that the truckers didn't want to get jobs, it was rather they were basically saying, no, we want to have the choice of whether we're going to do this or not. And the effects on the supply chain would be immediate. And again, Trudeau was supportive of the truckers, blah, 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 blah. But he turned around pretty damn quickly and started to do the various stages of demonization. So people such as Naruki and myself were would have been basically outcast if the powers that be got what they wanted. And I think that Hiroki had mentioned this already, but if he didn't, I'll say it right now. Trudeau, once it got to Ottawa, tuck-tailed and he ran. He ran out to Tofino, which is on Vancouver Island, basically northwest of Seattle, and he was hiding from a public that was pushing back. And he lost control of the situation, but it's been in the works for a while now anyway. I mean, growing resentment in the west of Western alienation from Ottawa, shall we say, Washington, D.C., the swamp, whatever. But I mean, this was a country basically collectively flipping the bird. And again, bank accounts being frozen, people being monitored, and the Coots 4, which is the border town going from Alberta into Montana. I can't remember what the American village is on the border crossing, but anyway, there was just way too many things that were going on. And no doubt from the deep state, and I don't think that Trudeau is honestly capable of thinking very much. I mean, he is realistically, he's a useful idiot, and he is. That's just my opinion, though. Someone within the administration who got probably okay to say, hey, look, boss, let's do this. Let's consult the Americans and see what they can help us with. Oh, okay, sure, no problem. Go away, little Johnny. I've had enough if you leave, you know. Oh, sorry. I'm thinking about him to little kids, but anyway. So, at the end of the day, Trudeau did not have any control over this. He was not liked at that point, but not to the point where he is right now, where he is incredibly disliked. So, to have to tap on American resources to monitor everything, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all, from what I understand. The text that I send to Naroki on Skype or email or text or Telegram or whatever, apparently the NSA pretty much gets everything. So they would have had the treasure trove of information to help make things a little more easier for the little potato dictator. And at the end of the day, my opinion is that that's too much power for any one entity to have, and to be able to dole it out under the right circumstances. So, color me not surprised, color me expecting this kind of behavior. I mean, we've seen it with Trudeau trying to control Twitter and online speech, and what I referenced to earlier of Canada getting closer to where the British are, which is going to be our next topic, I believe, or close enough to it. So, yeah, I don't have anything more to say about Canada's little dictator that loves the basic dictatorship of China. So, Naroki, back to you.
Okay,
Canada,
Roger.
Canada's the wrong pronunciation of China. Just saying.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Roger, I left a question for you there. Let me know if 2 p.m. tomorrow works for the spare parts show. All right. So the next one, and by the way, guys, we are at 1:47 already, and we're not even halfway through. So yeah, we're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to implement some rules here. No more stepping, no more interfering in somebody's turn on the panel. If we have extra comments to make, we will save them for the end after everybody's had their run through. That way, things will move a little bit faster. But I'm
not interfering. I'm fortifying.
All right. So the next one is really interesting because how this started is that ironically enough, it was a Rwandan refugee from when they had the massacre take place in Rwanda from 20 odd plus 30 years ago, I think now, because that happened during the Clinton administration. It started out with just this. He's not a refugee. He was actually born in Britain, but has Rwandan parents. He went into this studio and stabbed these three, I think, preteen or teenage girls, and it just sparked a riot in, I think it was Croydon, that just spilled out of control, and they had to call out the police and everything. And instead of that working, it just erupted everywhere else. And of course, the police were immediately called in to deal with them. But when the Muslims started counter-protesting and beating up white people in London, the police there were nowhere to be found. And the new prime minister went out and declared the protesters in Croydon as far-right extremists. So yeah, things are a hot mess. I mean, I didn't expect things were going to turn into a hot mess like this soon after the Labour government stepped in. I kind of had a feeling things were going to get messy with the Labour Party in there because the absolute hypocrisy of the Labour Party is going to be exposed for everyone to see. Don't know whether Britain survives this because I don't know who they're going to go for. Because I mean the Conservatives weren't. The reason why the Conservatives got voted out in the election is because they turned out to be. I mean, yeah, they got out of the EU, but they turned out to be, the people who took over just ended up being globalists anyway, right? And of course, the Labour Party is the functioning equivalent of the Democrats or the Liberals in Canada and the US. And yeah, two-tier policing. The Muslim protesters are allowed to go around beating the crap out of anybody who's not them. But when the actual native Europeans, the native Britons go out and protest, the police immediately show up. Oh, and to give you an idea how bad it's gotten in Britain, the courts are open 24 hours a day in certain areas, and they are making an extra effort to go after anybody who is posting stuff about what the British government is doing online. So yeah, hypocrisy, two-tier policing, and it's like I think it's not even a month since the since the new prime minister got into office, and it's like the question that's popping up, if it's this bad. I mean, I knew things were going to get bad in Britain. I didn't think they were going to get this bad this fast. Now, yeah, George Soros had a hand in this. They found evidence to show that George Soros was funding some of the riots, some of the Muslim riots, and he probably was also greasing the palms of a few public officials to make sure the police didn't respond when the Muslims started rioting. But yeah, I don't think that if this is going to continue over an extended period of time, I don't think Britain survives as a country, especially since and when we get to Kamala Harris, I'll talk about this, especially since it's looking very much like, at least in North America, Polyev and Trump are both going to be in power by the end of 2025. And neither of those two guys are going to be very amenable to a Labour Party prime minister in Britain, especially one that's a globalist. Hold on a second. That's all I got to say. I'm turning it over to Roger. And remember, no interruptions. If we want some more discussion, we'll do it at the end of the topic. So thanks. Roger, go ahead.
Now, England is one of the things I was talking about. Like, England is so freaking saturated with socialists, it's pathetic. And I said on here before that we've got to be careful about this uh, National Socialist thing going on in these countries too, because you can see it everywhere, especially over in England. When you sit and you listen to what these quote unquote conservatives are saying, okay, it sounds in the beginning like they're actually talking solid conservative conversations, but halfway through their speech they start talking National Socialism just through and through. I believe that their conservative party has actually been overran by the National Socialists because of the way they've been acting. They've been having, and don't get me wrong, these woke Labor Party groups have been pushing the immigration thing to where a lot of these people from Rwanda and all these other countries are coming into their country. And it would be an issue with conservatives because it would affect their traditions and their values and stuff. But whenever they start talking about immigration and shit like that, they cross the line from conservative to National Socialist. And this has been happening in England and Northern Ireland too. So there's been a lot of things going on there, and it goes back to what I said. The biggest problem we've been having is socialism. Okay, when people finally get off the freaking socialist freaking soapbox and actually start getting back to the way it should be. If you're a conservative, be a conservative. You know what I'm saying? If you're a freaking, if you believe in classic liberalism, then believe in that. You know what I mean? Don't get caught up in a lot of these socialist programs. Educate yourself to what they actually are. These are the people that are fighting with one another. This is the reason why we had World War One. This is the reason why we had World War Two. And if things don't stop and people don't say, hey, look, we're tired of this, it's not working, we need to freaking start over, freaking, then we're going to have World War III and it's going to get bad. You're seeing it pop up everywhere. New Zealand's even doing it. And New Zealand, I mean, people down there, they know one another. They've got small communities that freaking interact with one another, and yet they're freaking saturated with this socialist programs. In order for you to get a job, you have to freaking be on their welfare program. You know what I mean? So, and it's like that all over the UK, in the freaking EU, and in the British Empire, whatever you want to call it, Australia. You know, all of it, and it's just. Eventually, you know, and I get a kick out of it. Like, everybody always talks about how horrible the United States is, but look at everything on a world freaking level, okay? You talk about globalists. Globalist is socialism. I mean, the WFA, I mean, that, what do you think that is? That's a part of the UN. I mean, it all rotates around these socialist programs. That's all I got to say about it.
Pearson.
All right. What to say? Excuse me. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, this would be easier for the likes of Soros and the deep state, whatever words you want, the Khazarian mafia, shall we say, however you want to find them. This is the left wing of the Uniparty, and I mean, we saw how ineffective the last 3 prime ministers were of the Conservatives. Theresa May was awful. I mean, I can't really say it any other way. Just a female that just defied anything that would be good or useful from people in society. Boris Johnson was the son of a globalist, and then whoever that woman was for a little while, and then the last guy. I mean, it's been building up for the last. Say what you will about Tommy Robinson, but he's been trying to bring up like the Middle Eastern rape gangs and younger women, and apparently Starmer had enough influence with the government at the time, pick your administration, to say that we don't dare bring this up because it's going to create racial tension, to point out what's going on. And I'm going to say this much about Starmer as well. He was asked a question. I can't remember where I commented on it. I think it was on YouTube. But the guy had the look of fear in his eyes about being asked I think it was about something related to what's going on right now. And I couldn't help but notice that he took a big swallow as the question was being thrown at him. So the only thing that I think that I can say about the gentleman, I'll use the term very loosely, in question, is that he's nothing but a pawn for the strings that are being pulled. Now, which side, I don't know. But I think what's going to happen here is that, much like the sentiment in Canada has towards Trudeau, and it's going to start to grow, and will it get violent? I don't know, but at some point people are going to start to protest, and it's going to start off small, but it'll end up becoming big. But basically saying that we're not supporting the people that should have or would have voted for us, at some point, I think within the near enough future, I'd give it honestly maybe a year, maybe. And Britain's going to be, do I think it's going to be in the middle of a civil war of sorts? Yeah, to what degree? I honestly don't know. I'm not advocating it. But much like Canadians here are starting to realize how much they don't actually own and how the system has been rigged to steal everything from them, I honestly don't see Britain being any different. That the people are going to realize that they've been hosed, and at the end of the day, as Kelso was basically alluding to, it doesn't matter which side of the political aisle that you vote for. As I said, it's one massive uniparty, and the people have been conned. So we'll see. And that's all I got, man. Back to you.
Okay, does anybody have anything more to throw in before we move on to the next topic?
Sure. I'll just say, for one, none of it really surprises me as far as what's going on in Britain. And, Britain's been having problems with various levels of authoritarianism in its own ranks, even from the early to mid to late 20th centuries and on in. It's been something that's bubbling and brewing and boiling and increasing over a long stretch of time, and we might be seeing signs of a culmination point at some point. As far as what Roger was saying about a talk of World War III, this and that, like, I'll just say I'm not worried about any of that, because like the way world wars have been framed, and especially from Hollywood, it's been really brilliant. Because when people are too busy looking up at the sky for mushroom clouds to indicate the start of World War III, they're not realizing that modern warfare is fifth generational, asymmetrical, indifferentiated warfare. Everything in all the politics is warfare. Everything in all the economics is warfare. All the psychological and informational warfare and social media is warfare. The shit they put in the food is warfare. All the pollution they put out in the world is warfare. Like, you've got all these different multi-pronged, simultaneous stressor attacks. We're all under attack 24/7. Call it World War III if you want, but when you really, look at the history, it's like, yeah, I guess you could say we're in World War III. We've been in it. We were born in it, even according to like some, documents that were recently declassified. Even the government said that officially World War III started in 1952 or something like that, because there hasn't really been much peacetime. It's like, you're taking a quick breather before, oh, now you're wrapped up in something else. Oh, Korea, Vietnam, Cold War, this, that, blah, blah, blah. It's just been, World Wars One, Two, and if you want to say three, has just been one big, long, ongoing war, and there's historical documentation that shows this has been planned. There's documentaries on it. Back in the 1800s, yeah, they couldn't have known what our technology was going to look like exactly, but they had some basic plans for World Wars One, Two, and Three, and they called it that. And what each war was going to do and facilitate. They might not have been able to imagine the tech, but they have been going according to that original plan from the 1800s. So for me, it's been one great big long world war, the enemy being the enemy of all humanity, and then humanity side, and a bunch of us have been dumb enough to side with our own enemy. For most people, it's to no fault of their own. I mean, they're raised in the environments they're raised in. They're taught what they're taught. They don't know any better, so not their fault that they don't know what they don't know. But yeah, the situation is what it is. And so for this particular chapter of World War III, or whatever you want to call it, yeah, it's understandable, the stuff going on in Britain and people's reactions and the wake-up calls in Canada and everywhere else. So, yeah, that's what the Great Awakening is about. People thought in 2012 the world was going to blow up or we'd all unite and there'd be unicorns and rainbows. But really, the mass awakening is a pretty slow boil, just like the mass putting people to sleep was a slow boil. It comes in waves, and it's a lot of suffering. It's not unicorns, it's not rainbows, it's not feeling blissful, it's shit and fan making rendezvous and inconvenient truths, emotional, psychological, and physical discomforts. It's just enlightenment, if you look at the meme, is defined as the complete destruction and shattering of everything you thought to be true. So yes, in the apocalypse that we're in, the word simply meaning to reveal that which was once hidden. Yeah, it's a major enlightenment. Oh man, we've been conned this whole fucking time. Now I gotta think for myself, and no one ever taught me how. What am I gonna do? Yep, there it is.
Yes, we all need to unite to fight the Nazi cat people riding around on nightmare hell horses, firing laser beams out of their eyes, with the Nazi cat people whipping Slanesh whips, whipping everybody into blissful, agonizing frenzy.
They're firing lightning bolts out of their asshole, according to William Wallace.
Exactly. So anyway, let's move on with the next topic. And this one is another interesting one, and it ties into, and I actually did go out and see this movie right away when I got back into when I got back into town. I immediately, as soon as I got my bags back up to my room, I immediately hopped in my car and I drove over to a movie theater and I watched Deadpool versus Wolverine. I was impressed, and this is the thing that has been going on with a lot of movies this year. And tomorrow night I'm going to go see the Deadlands movie again. Deadlands hasn't been getting the love that Furiosa and Fall Guy, and particularly Deadpool versus Wolverine, has gotten. But what I have been noticing, and there's also apparently the new Pixar film is also shy. They also kind of moved away from the woke stuff as well there. What I'm noticing is that a lot of the studios have suddenly started to wise up and realize, like, hey, we're actually in the business of entertaining people. And when people are entertained, they will pay money to see our product. When I was talking about, I mean, people want to go see a movie to go see a movie. They don't want to go see a movie as some sort of political or fucking cultural statement. Just sort of like, we were talking about Harley Davidson last week. People just want to go out and ride their bike, right? They don't want to make a political statement by riding a fucking Harley Davidson. They just want to get out on the open road with their motorcycle and ride around. That will never be me, for personal reasons. Same thing with movies. They want to see movies to get away from, to get a couple of hours of escapism, to be entertained, not to be lectured at, not to have somebody twitching their finger at them, telling them how bad they are because they're white or male or whatever. And I mean, I gotta keep in mind, occasionally a movie comes out where it actually works. Like Barbie last year was brilliantly misandric. But what has happened, and of course they still haven't done it because Kathleen Kennedy is running the show over at Star Wars, so that franchise is going to absolutely tank. But what's happened over at Pixar, and specifically what happened over at the MCU, is that both the MCU and I think Pixar did this as well, is that they quietly got rid of the activist showrunners and the activist producers and the activist directors. Now, with Deadpool versus Deadpool v. Wolverine, what they did is that Ryan Reynolds and the director of that movie basically had to do the same thing that Henry Cavill was doing with this character in The Witcher. Because, if you remember correctly, some of the early warning signs we were seeing about the new Deadpool movie said was going to be a woke piece of trash. And Ryan Reynolds, although, again, he's been very skillful, and he's been kind of like doing like Matt McConaughey and a few other actors have been, and Chris Pine's another one, how they've been very skillfully navigating through the political miasma without actually making a strong political statement. And Ryan Reynolds is one of those actors. And he's been able to kind of navigate through, and now he's in a position now where where he can go like, no, you're not doing the. He can't, Deadpool. Hold on a second. Deadpool is Ryan Reynolds' character. So they weren't going to throw his character on a movie based around him. And they weren't going to turn it into a piece of woke trash. And also, Hugh Jackman although Hugh Jackman isn't as big a name as Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman was also on board with this, as were a few people. And of course, the MCU had, and Pixar apparently has done the same thing. They quietly removed all of the woke stuff. So the MCU, and to a lesser extent possibly Pixar, are actually potentially going to start coming. You're still going to get a little bit of woke in there because of Oscar considerations and so forth, but it's not going to be, when you go see potentially an MCU movie or a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, Stage 4, or you go see a Pixar movie, you're not going to have woke, and you're not going to have lectures rammed into your face. And that was all well and interesting. But then now what's happened is, because the movie, new Deadpool movie, is actually going to surpass $1 billion. Now they're getting to the point where, I mean, they were able to keep the Disney executives away from screwing up everything with this movie. Now what they got to do is they got to turn around again, though, and they have to go back and they got to make sure that the money that the MCU earned doesn't get flipped into more woke trash. Because the MCU and Pixar are both going to have to come out with decent products, or at least passable products, for the next 2 or 3 years in order to undo the damage that they've done. In the meantime, they're all looking at this, and they're looking at what's going on over at Lucasfilm, and Lucasfilm is just absolutely going down in flames. And it's not just MCU, it's not just Pixar. The fall, people have started finally figuring it out, because Furiosa ended up being a fairly decent movie in of its own right, and they marketed it wrong. They marketed it as a girl power Mary Sue feminist movie, and that's not what Furiosa ended up being. Furiosa is not a Mary Sue. There's actually a believable character arc with Furiosa in that movie. And then the Fall Guy, again, right, because of the names involved, they were like figuring, oh God, it's gonna be woke trash. And yeah, there is some wokeism in it, but it was just a fun, entertaining movie with lots of stunts and lots of one-liners and lots of good jokes. And the characters were funny cliches, and they even had a visit with Lee Majors. And unfortunately, because of everything that's gone on in Hollywood, the movie didn't do well, even though it actually deserved to do well. Now, there's been examples of this before. Don't Worry Baby, for instance, the one with Helen Pugh that came out a couple years ago, was, well, I mean, Olivia Wilde ended up screwing one of the actors on that movie, but they tried to play that off as a girl power movie as well. And if they had marketed it as Olivia Pugh's character takes the red pill, if they had marketed it as a female version of The Matrix, it probably would have done quite well, but that's not what they did. So, yeah, you're seeing the studios and their marketing departments screw things up. And what they did specifically, finally, with the Deadpool movie, is they went in, and Ryan Reynolds and the crew with him went in and looked at every single aspect, and they went, no, you're not going to market this as a woke movie. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that. No. Brie Larson is not going to get her cameo woke appearance. You're not going to get Brie Larson in the woman that plays as She-Hulk to come in and start lecturing Wolverine and Deadpool for being toxic males in this movie. Like, you are not fucking doing that. Like, they're not getting their cameos. Although there were other actors in that movie that did get their cameos. Very, very decent movie. Again, right, there's going to have to be a couple of years of this out of the MCU for them to do okay. And ironically enough, MCU and Pixar might end up causing Lucasfilm to hobble along and Kathleen Kennedy to hobble along a lot longer than they should have. So there is a yin and a yang to it. But I mean, again, right, Wolverine, Deadpool v. Wolverine is worth going into the movie theaters to see, as was The Fall Guy, as was Furiosa, if you didn't get a chance to see them. So, yeah, the studio system, the studios in Hollywood are starting to wise up. Unfortunately, there's going to be a studio or two and a couple of brands or two, like Lucasfilm, that are eventually just going to tank completely and are going to have to be sold off. But I mean, yeah, there does appear to be a bit of a course correction happening in Hollywood right now. And that's what I've seen from the movies that I've been to so far this year. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kelso.
Oh, come on now. We need the Brie Larson cameos. I want to see Wolverine punch Captain Marvel in the face repeatedly. It'd be glorious. But anyway, yeah, I've been seeing similar observations in Hollywood in general. Haven't really looked so much under the hood, so to speak, but on the surface level, like even shows that have nothing to do with the MCU, I'm noticing that the wokeness is reduced. Like one thing I'm noticing is that they'll insert a few little small woke undertones here and there, like nothing in your face, nothing lecturing you for 5 minutes, nothing like that, but things that it's like certain things are subtly implied if you know what you're looking for, but if you don't, then literally nothing is said. It's just a scene. So they try to sneak little very small things in here and there, or something might be a quick poke. Like it'll be an in-your-face poke, but it'll last for 5 seconds, and then they'll immediately like move on from that like into something else entirely unrelated and not woke. So yeah, I've been noticing the reduction of woke stuff, which was inevitable because get woke, go broke, and people in Hollywood do still like to make money. At first they were thinking, oh well, we can only make our money if we keep our die scores up, diversity, inclusion, equity. But with the die score up, they were killing their business. So they're starting to realize, no matter how much we might get penalized for a lower die score, we're still going to be making way more money than we would if we went with this bullshit and completely go bankrupt and everyone hates us. So, yeah. Totally seeing it. As far as Star Wars stuff, like so far, Ahsoka season 1 overall has been pretty good. They ended at the part where Captain Thrawn, or Admiral Thrawn, excuse me, Grand Admiral Thrawn, sorry, is like primed to do some epic shit for some epic scenes and really amazing and awesome. But when it hits the point where you could see they go in that direction, then there's that worry of like, are they completely gonna fuck it? Like they're at an intersection where they could do something totally amazing. I hope they do, but are they gonna take a steaming turn on it and have us watch and go, why the fuck did they do that? Like, we've seen what kind of stuff they've been able to do with the last 3 Star Wars movies that like overall, like those Star Wars movies, like they were okay, and they shouldn't have been okay. They should have been awesome. There's a lot of missed opportunities and everything else. So like they mediocrity the fuck out of it. I personally didn't see Rey as a Mary Sue because she was force clumsy and kind of stupid, more than just a little kind of stupid. And she only won against Kylo Ren because Kylo Ren fucking let her. He was pulling his punches. Anybody could see that. So like, she was just this clumsy, ditzy fucking Jedi is what she was. Just clumsy, ditzy, basket case. Didn't know what the fuck she was doing. So yeah, she had force powers. Her metachlorians were up or whatever. So she had that same natural aptitude like what Anakin had when he was a little kid. But she was clumsy. She was a complete flake. Like she was just like any fucking Jedi worth their salt would look at her and go like, "What the fuck are you doing, lady? It's stupid." So I didn't really see her as a Mary Sue. She was just kind of a clumsily fucking everything up to the point where Luke himself had to come in and save the day because Rey was so absolutely ineffective at everything. Uh, but anyway, yeah, it's it's good to see the removal of the woke stuff. It was inevitable, and I don't think there's really anything more I have to say on that other than we need Brie Larson's face beaten in by Wolverine. Cutscene, maybe? I don't know.
Roger.
Yeah, I don't know. I ain't buying it because like Bob Iger, I think he came back in and, as CEO in like 2022, and from that time period all the way to now, he has always said that freaking. Well, he's always said, not to believe him or not, that it was supposed to be entertainment above any kind of agenda. You know what I mean? And still, yet when you look at the evidence in front of you, that's not the case. You know, it's like that stuff with Florida, with the Ron DeSantis and Disney. That all started because freaking Disney had a problem with Florida's "Don't Say Gay" law. You know what I mean? So I mean, they're the ones who started all that shit. It wasn't freaking Ron DeSantis and that did it. They just didn't like the idea of that law, the state's law coming into play. And then you take a look at what they've done all the time. Iger saying that it was about entertainment over freaking any agendas. You look at all the stuff that they've done, like they had what was it, the Little Mermaids, where it was Black Ariel and things of that nature, and then they had freaking the LGBT stuff going on, like in Lightyear with the freaking the lesbian kiss, I believe was what it was, and just one thing right after the other, and all the time he's sitting there talking about, oh, it's supposed to be about entertainment, not about any kind of agenda and stuff. And the only thing, and he's bumped heads with people like Elon Musk, and then Nelson Peltz. He actually started an investors war with him over the whole situation, and that's what I think started the whole thing, where he started coming out and saying that he's not going to do the whole woke thing anymore. But it's like I said, I just don't buy it. I think that freaking he's going to keep on doing it, and even if he tries to hush it down, I don't think he has the control he thinks he has, because these people are still going to go and do things against his wishes. So that I'll pass.
Rearson.
Yes. All right. At some point, something like this was going to have to happen. I mean, you cannot be bleeding cash. Again, as Margaret Thatcher has said, socialism, or in this case, wokeism, works as long as until you run out of other people's money. And that's really what's happened here, is that Disney has had to run out, and I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if Riots had basically said, look, if you're going to market it this way, I am not going to be terribly supportive on selling the show or selling the movie. So, I mean, the first Deadpool movie was only, what, 30 or $35 million of a budget? And I mean, it was. I still love watching it. I mean, I've watched a couple of reaction videos of it on YouTube, and it's still fun to watch, even though it's been cut down by about half. And again, I walked out of the movie and I was happy as hell. I can say that I was entertained, and it was a wonderful feeling. It was the same way that the female Ghostbusters came out, and like, thanks, but no thanks. I mean, the last thing I need to see is Aunt Jemima, for example, trying to do whatever it is she's supposed to do. I don't know, whatever. And Yeah, Deadpool was written basically as intended with Ryan Reynolds, just the way that he was at the time. I don't know what it was that got his attention of Rob Liefeld or whoever it was, but that's just how it was. And most actors never get this opportunity to actually to have the role fit for them. I mean, Hugh Jackman, never heard of the guy before, watched the first X-Men movie, kind of going, shit, damn, that works. And the second one really wasn't that bad. And I remember we were talking about this, that they were looking right at the third movie, and it was going to be woke as fuck. So I don't know what strings that Reynolds had to pull and how much clout that he had to throw in to basically make it stop. But I mean, this is the first R-rated action movie that's bringing in $1 billion plus. Now, am I going to go see it? Honestly, probably not. Do I think it's a bad movie? No, I don't. Do I think it would be an entertaining one? For the most part, yeah, I do. I'm not motivated. But that's just me, and I'm getting a little bit off topic here. But within Disney, Marvel seems to be the first one to actually indicate a course correction. Now, they're not going to announce this. It's like, yeah, we got rid of all of our wokesters, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's been speculated that there are 4 movies that are going to be ugh. So, for now, one movie that goes away from the die shit and it actually makes a profit. And again, the movies that were referenced earlier, Furiosa, The Fall Guy, and whatever else. I mean, but for a Disney movie at this point, there's the Pixar as well too. Again, don't remember, don't care. But right now, this is going to be one positive point for what the audience wants as a data point. We'll have to wait and see what else comes down the pipe over the next 5 years. It's going to take probably 5 years or so to actually start to see movies that are going to be worthwhile. Again, I'm not subscribed to Disney Plus. I'm not going to be subscribed to Disney Plus for my anti-pedophilic feelings towards Disney as a whole and Hollywood as a whole. And I'm the gatekeeper of what comes in, what my son to some degree will or will not watch. And until I'm satisfied that things are better, those fuckers at Disney, LucasArts, Lucasfilm, whatever, they're not going to get any of my cash, and that's it. End of story. Again, I may be only one person, but I'm not the only one that's pissed off with the shit that's come out from that corporation. So, and at some point, corporations fall. Look at what's happening with Harley Davidson, because you're not giving your target demographic or consumers. There we go. That's the word. You're not giving the consumers what they really want. So fuck them. So we'll see. I'm not going to hold my breath, but I do hope this is going to become the norm again, where the audience being entertained and studios profiting from it is the name of the game. So that's all I got.
Speaking of Harley Davidson at the Sturgis rally, which is going on presently, is getting the Bud Light treatment at the Sturgis rally. Yeah, and I mean, this is considered blasphemy, for at least for biker gangs. But a lot of bikers are actually basically removing the Harley Davidson logo off their motorcycle, because some of them just can't afford to give away their bike and go out and buy a new one because the bikes are expensive. But yeah, a lot of them are removing the logos. Sturgis, not Sturgis, but Indian and another American motorcycle company have also reported an increased business, which isn't that big of a surprise. As far as the MCU goes, yeah, there's a long ways to go. I think what absolutely has to happen, though, is that one of the franchises and one of the studios has to absolutely bite the bullet. If the you want to think that Bob Iger has enough brains to keep his meddling fingers out of what's going on at Pixar and the MCU. But I mean, the other executives, and because Disney is just not. I mean, this thing with Deadpool and Wolverine is a breath of fresh air, especially considering what's been going on with Disney over the past couple of months. You know, you want to think that maybe executives over at Disney would be smart enough to put two and two together, but unless you've been as you've been finding out when you've been listening to O'Keefe Media and its coverage of the Disney studios, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of critical thinking going on there. So yeah, I am firmly in the belief that Disney will screw it up just the same way that Amazon managed to screw up Warhammer 40K before it even got into pre-production with Henry Cavill at playing the character of Inquisitor Eisenhorn. Yeah, Warhammer 40K, just like the Deadpool Wolverine movie, Warhammer 40K, you cannot kiddify Warhammer 40K. You cannot make a PG-18 or PG-13 movie of Warhammer 40K. Warhammer 40K is specifically R-rated content. Now, if anybody else has anything more to add, we'll get on. But if anybody else has any more to add, then this is the time. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next topic.
Nope.
Okay. So, look at this. This one is really interesting because this one involves Mr. Beast. This one is wow. This is ironically enough, what you're seeing with Mr. Beast is basically the same thing that you're seeing with Disney, but on a smaller scale. Mr. Beast is the single biggest content creator on YouTube. He has 300 million plus followers. As we talked about last week, was it 2 weeks ago? I can't specifically recall. Mr. Beast has been okay. I checked. He has 800 videos, but I mean he's been streaming since 2012, so he's been doing this for a while now. So it wasn't overnight success for him. Just thought I'd throw that out. That being said, I mean he didn't get that kind of support. And he didn't get to those kind of numbers if he wasn't willing to play ball with the powers that be in Silicon Valley. Now, and one of the things that's going on with DEI and wokeism is, of course, toxic corporate environments, DEI, transgenderism, and of course, right, because YouTube has, I got to point out, YouTube has been caught allowing pedophilic content into the YouTube Kids section. They've been caught a couple times doing that. So when you look at what happened with Mr. Beast, first of all, with that first employee who got caught, getting some racy exchanges with a 13-year-old, first of all, having, and I don't know what the rest of you guys, what your expectations are. The three individuals that I have run into in my life that ended up being convicted pedophiles, their jokes were always, I won't say edgy, but inappropriate in regards to minors. Their sexuality was usually right out front. They would do it with everybody. They would, like and when they were confronted on it, they would get defensive or angry or whatever, but they would not accept personal responsibility. Now, given how long it took for this to come out, absolutely somebody, and indeed, as it has been revealed, were people that have allegedly gone to Mr. Beast and told him what was going on. And he chose to do nothing. Now, why did he choose to do nothing? Okay, him and the guy who got booted out. I can't remember the dude's full name, the one who ended up being a pedophile. Go back to literally childhood friends. So, yeah, I was willing to cut Mr. Beast some slack. Because if you go, and this is the same thing with me and Rearson, when you have that long lasting a relationship, like it usually takes something pretty significant for you to walk away. Although I have had to walk between 2020 and 2022, I had to walk away, and people did it to me, right? I had to walk away from people I'd been friends with for decades. So it does happen. But yeah, Mr. Beast likely did know what's going on. Mr. Beast has basically just been going on doing the same thing that he was normally doing and just pretending that it didn't happen, which is okay. That's what he's choosing to do. That's the way he's choosing to deal with it and having to deal with it in private. Okay, that's his thing. However, the second guy being accused of pedophilia, apparently this guy wasn't right out front the way his best friend was. That was a different story, and he was quietly removed as well. Then you have reports coming out because obviously at this point, Mr. Beast, if you have 330 million followers, you have a substantial amount of cash coming in. I mean, you're a multi-millionaire. At absolute minimum, you're a multi-millionaire. So you have a corporation full of people backing you up. You have an entire company of people working underneath you to support you in your endeavors. And there have been rumors coming out now that the corporate environment over there was rather toxic. Again, right? And I mean, I'm having to do this myself as I'm going along. I'm having to become a little bit more ruthless and a little bit more authoritarian about my content and what I do about it. Because, take tonight with all the time constraints and whatever. That type of thing. That I understand, but apparently the work environment at Mr. Beast's company was abusive and bullying. And of course, and this one I'm a little bit skeptical of because it's the manosphere and the MGTOW in me. He had an ex-girlfriend come out of the blue and start making accusations of him. And then my first response is, yeah, what a coincidence, right? Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. Given everything else that's been going on, though, right, what she was saying about him has some weight and some levity behind it. The reason why it has some weight and some levity behind it, because he ignored his best friend when he was doing what he was doing, and he probably knew. Cannot say for sure, and Mr. Beast will not answer. I'm going to say one other thing about Mr. Beast, though. He has probably peaked And it's probably going to be a slow, gradual fade out for him now after this, because there's just been too much that's said about him, and it's going to follow him wherever he goes. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave.
Yeah, pretty much. There's been a lot of controversy and a lot of details on it. So rather than me rambling on and on about things that I could, I'll simply suggest there's a content creator by the name of Mr. Obvious. He's on YouTube. He also sends his stuff over to Odyssey and I think Rumble and some other places, whatever. But Mr. Obvious. And in the not too distant past, he made a video called The Downfall of Mr. Beast, The Dark and Disturbing Downfall. So, yeah, I put that link in the chat for those of us who are here, but anybody listening who is not able to see the chat, yeah, just go to Mr. Obvious, browse the content, you'll find it. He does a pretty good job of putting a lot of information into as short of a span of time as humanly possible. And then, of course, if people want more than that, there's a bunch of different content creators that, oh my God, just such deep dives. I've been watching some of it, and yeah, it's definitely a shit show. But you know, it's also not surprising. And, you know, seeing as like Amazon is also backing Mr. Beast and all that kind of fun stuff. I think that, you know, as the ruling class tends to do, Mr. Beast is just one of those people who got exploited by the ruling class without realizing, you know, that this was happening. Because Mr. Beast, as far as I could tell, yeah, he's a normie and craves attention more than just a little bit of a narcissist, and the money's a big priority for him. So imagine that kind of normie, you know, one of these Black Rock Vanguard types of people come up to him and just play it up like, oh yeah, I love what you're doing and really want to you know, invest some money and we could all make a lot of money and da da da. Like, you know, I can imagine it from a total normie perspective. Like, I'm not saying Mr. Beast, you know, is Bill Gates' golfing buddy or any such shit like that. But, you know, just one of those useful idiots, one of those tools that you know, that got used. And of course, a tool for what? Well, you know, there's all the exploitation and the child gambling and the diddling of the littles and, you know, all this different stuff that we all know that the ruling class really enjoys getting up to, you know. They love that sort of shit. They do it everywhere they can. So, you know, that's just par for the course for that. But, you know, I don't believe that, you know, Mr. Beast is like in on anything as far as greater agendas of the ruling class, but he's definitely a product of the overall mechanism set into place that wants to try to normalize, you know, things that shouldn't be normalized, and y'all know what I'm saying. That's about it.
Rearson.
Oh, okay. I was expecting the Roger would have chimed in on this one. Honestly, my opinion of Mr. Beast hasn't changed. I think I had said already that he was aware of what was going on the last time he was brought up. Regardless, I haven't watched any of his content in a very long time, but apparently the stuff that is being made by him, he has it staffed by... His contests seem to be about as real as wrestling. WWE, WWF, whatever. It's already been... it's already been predetermined. And it seems to be that he keeps the cash to basically to pay his employees. So I don't think that there's anything real or genuine about this person to begin with. And I have to honestly wonder, what did he do to be able to have this kind of level of fame? I mean, we said it before. I mean, PewDiePie is one thing, and apparently the guy worked his ass off and he got to where he was. Mr. Beast kind of seemed to come out of nowhere. And again, with Chris, whatever the fuck his name is, switching genders probably to try to avoid prosecution or whatever, or that to be the excuse. If you know what's going on and you allow it to happen, I'm sorry, you have no leg to stand on. If that's the case, I feel that he's a despicable human being. But at some point, you can't maintain your position of power for the entire duration of your life. I mean, we saw that with Harvey Weinstein and others that were basically untouchable until. So
they weren't.
Exactly. So I'm hoping that with Mr. Beast that this is going to be a fate of a similar nature, and hopefully, and I do mean hopefully, that we get to see what the real person is like. And well, time will tell, and we'll wait and see. So that's all I have to say on the matter.
Yeah, Kelso's definition of him being a narcissist and not a guy with a particularly strong set of morals, yeah, that is probably the type of person that BlackRock and Soros and whatnot were looking for. And yeah, I did notice that because I knew the T-Series, and I remember the T-Series PewDiePie race that was taking place, like who was going to be the first one to hit 100 million, and it ended up being PewDiePie. PewDiePie is only at 111 million right now. And I say only because I wouldn't mind having even 1% of that as a following for me. That would be great for me. But the whole thing is just, yeah, there's just something about it that stinks. The fact of the matter is that, and this is something that I've noticed with really toxic people, because this also happened with Harvey Weinstein. They make that one big mistake. They let that one person screw shit up, or they make that one mistake, and everybody that has a beef with them comes out and starts stabbing knives in them. And that's exactly what's happening with Mr. Beast, which, although I don't know Mr. Beast personally, and I'm not really interested in knowing him personally, that, from my experience, is consistent with an individual who has pissed off and used a lot of people in the past and was probably a little bit deficient in the morality category. So when somebody told him or told the people around him that his best friend was potentially diddling kids, he didn't care because it wasn't his kid, or it wasn't anybody that he knew. And the way he's acting now, he's just basically trying to go on like nothing ever happened and pretended like he never even knew his best friend. That's only making him look even more guilty. But then again, right, there is no right move for Mr. Beast in this particular situation. His right move would have been to quietly remove this guy a few months ago. That would have been the best move to make. But he chose not to do that. Now, does anybody else have anything to say on this particular topic? By the way, Roger, we will be covering Mr. Beast tomorrow.
I don't really have much to say about him. He's the thing of it is he's just a big representative of what YouTube's all about. You know what I'm saying? Like, they've been known for years and years of exploiting children. It's not just Mr. Beast. YouTube had to actually make an age limit on YouTubers and that was because of people who were against it. YouTube didn't make the decision; it was made for them.
Well,
So,
again, exactly. Go ahead, finish what you're going to say.
so when it comes to Mr. Beast, he's just like Dave said, a product of his environment. You know what I mean? Freaking the dude and YouTubers too. YouTube creates a horrible environment. Okay, these people, the only thing they do is cannibalize each other. They don't care about freaking helping the small creators. They'd rather freaking sacrifice the small creators so they can make more money. So that's basically what that environment is. So it's not pretty at all. And that's all I basically have to say.
The one thing that
When the lights are turned on, the roaches will scurry.
Exactly. Well, here's the thing about this with Jicky on in this situation, especially with YouTube Kids. Right after her son died, and we're going to get back into what happens to parents. Yeah, Wojcicki was probably not in recovery or anything like that, but I mean, I've seen a couple people with parents whose children die because of a drug overdose, right? And it forces to a person. The ones that I've seen it happen, I've seen it happen a handful of times. The parents almost too universally are forced almost by rote because of what happened to take a look at themselves and what they did and didn't do. And in a lot of cases, it goes beyond what they were just doing with their kid. It also involves everything else that they were doing in their lives. So, I mean, this is just a theory, because I was talking about this with Russ at the start of the show. When it comes to Susan Wojcicki, when her son died, right? She went through a process similar to that, and all of a sudden she became aware of everything else that she was doing. And I'm thinking almost on a metaphysical or spiritual level, I think she probably just threw in the towel in some sort of way. That's just my theory on it. Again, Wojcicki is another one that we will be discussing on the spare parts episode tomorrow. Does anybody else have anything more to say on this one? Because we got one more topic to go here.
No.
Okay, so the last topic, and this one, well, I can't say I'm overly surprised. I was kind of wondering who Kamala Harris was going to pick. When I found out that I didn't know who Tim Walz was, but when I started looking, when I started doing research on the guy, it was like, oh, of course it had to be him. First of all, if you've been looking at the ad campaigns that have been going, that the Harris campaign has been doing, it's all about wokeism. It's all about vote for Kamala because she's a strong, independent Black woman, and she's like literally doubled down on wokeism. Tim Walz is in that particular case is a governor. He's the governor of Minnesota, by the way. We all know what that was. That's where the cops who accidentally killed George Floyd. That happened in Minneapolis. The riots in Minneapolis were particularly bad. Minnesota, it was a blue state. There was corruption around the presidential election with electoral ballots, which, by the way, was the story that got James O'Keefe with then Project Veritas to sue the New York Times. All of that, and this is also Ilhan Omar's home state. So this is particularly the city of Minneapolis. Minneapolis is a deep blue city. Now, I'm sure just like California and New York and whatever, there are parts of the state that are red. I'm sure there are parts of the state of Minnesota that are also red. Tim Walz was the governor who sat through all of this insanity that allowed the defunding of the police, that allowed all of this stuff happening, and he literally did nothing in Minnesota to stop any of this. His whole campaign, he's fully on board with, and by the way, by picking him, the Kamala Harris campaign has pretty much decided that they're going to go with woke. And Kamala Harris has been openly, I mean, there's a soundbite of her saying that everybody needs to be woke. There needs to be more woke in the world. So yeah, Kamala Harris has decided to run on racism. She decided that she's going to run on being a woman, and she's going to run on woke. That's their campaign platform. She can't run on anything else because she hasn't fucking accomplished anything else. Tim Walz, again, I don't know a whole lot about him, but I do know that because he was the governor of Minnesota and the stuff that happened in Minnesota, that he had a hand in either making it happen or allowing it to happen. And he did nothing to stop the stuff that was going on in Minneapolis. And bottom line here is that the Harris campaign that's what the Harris campaign has decided to do. And by the way, the current polls, there has been a Kamala Harris bump, as expected in the polls now. Unfortunately, it's evened things out a little bit, but Trump is still ahead. The other part on this is that you're seeing the Kamala, if you recall in 2020, the people that were attending the Biden rallies was there was almost nobody, and there was just these throngs of people attending Trump rallies. Well, there was a photo put up by Harry Sisson, aka one of the Biden bros, which showed this massive crowd showing up at a Kamala Harris rally. And it looked legit until you actually saw people on their cell phones and what they were recording. And it was very clear that what they were recording on their cell phones was not Kamala Harris's plane landing. So they were too lazy to check the cell phones to fix what was on the cell phones. So basically, they just manufactured this crowd out of nowhere. And of course, right, on Twitter, there was the usual crowd in there trying to make excuses. And they're desperately doing everything they can to try to say that she wasn't the border czar. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave.
Yeah, pretty much. I remember a while back when Hillary was running, there was a similar instance where you've got Hillary talking in front of a crowd of people and they're videoing her with their cell phones, but the problem is when you zoom in on their cell phones, there ain't no Hillary. So not at all the first time that anything like that has been done. But it's just going to keep becoming more of a clown show. It's all, WWE anyway, so if they frickin' select Harris, that's going to be interesting because the steal is going to be even more obvious then than it was in 2020, and it was pretty obvious in 2020. Conservatives do seem to take a while to process their cognitive dissonance. They seem to need to see an election fully rigged multiple times while being increasingly obvious, instead of just looking at the first point of obviousness and going, oh, well, shit. How can we vote for who we want if literally the whole system is essentially run by oligarchical Stalin? But, 5 stages of paradigm shifting, 5 stages of grief. When people first start to realize that the system is rigged, there's a great big club, you ain't in it, etc., they have cognitive dissonance at first. They don't immediately accept it. Takes a while. Takes some escalations. So yeah, it's no surprise. I mean, Kamala wrote a book about how she basically hoard her way to success. Like, she's proud of it. She doesn't see it as a bad thing. She sees it as, yeah, I did this and it helped me, and you can do it too if that's what you want to do. So it's like, she'll be the first, and like, wait a minute. It's like that she says she's black, but before she was saying she was Indian, not like American Indian, but like from India. So like first it's like, oh, I'm Indian. Now it's like, no, I'm not Indian. I'm black. Just like it's, oh, I'm the border czar. And now it's like, oh, I was never the border czar. So whether she's black or Indian, if they put her in, she'll be the first, whatever the fuck that is, female whore in the presidency, and then she'll have the opportunity to help fuck an entire nation at once, and then she could really put that in a book and be proud of herself. So yeah, I guess that's all I gotta say.
Kamala Harris, she fucked her way to the top, and then she fucked the nation up royally. Roger.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like, everybody's real big on calling this woman freaking woke, but I mean, I think she's takes freaking woke to a whole new level. She is fucking pure evil, and there's just no way of even saying it any other way, because like when you take a look at her past career in freaking California, it was insane. That's the reason why she wasn't able to make it for the other time she tried to run for president, because they brought up the fact that she actually had a chance of exonerating a guy on death row because they had positive DNA that would exonerate him, and she refused to allow him to use it. And that dude's still sitting on death row in California to this day. And then for her best way of exonerating herself was, well, I'm not like that. I helped free this poor little teenage black kid. You know what I mean? I'm like, dude, it doesn't take away from the fact of what you just did to this dude who freaking DNA proves that he was freaking innocent. All they had to do was allow it in court, and she freaking refused to allow it. And she constantly did that when she was freaking, what was it, prosecuting attorney or district attorney for San Diego, I think it was what it was. But she's pure evil. And this guy from Minnesota, that I don't know what to say about him. I know that whole situation was horrible. They ended up having a whole bunch of shit going on where they were wanting to defund the government, and like a lot of this freaking crazy hookups with like street gangs and shit were coming in and supposed to be a part of the community and shit. And I was like, that's just ridiculous. So that whole time was just outrageous. It just, none of it made sense. So like here, I live maybe about 3-4 hours away from Ferguson, where Brown was shot, and everybody was making a big stink about that in St. Louis and everything, but here and even in Carbondale and all that, you didn't hear nothing about that. It was just all blown out of proportion by the media. We didn't have riots, we didn't have any problems whatsoever, but on the news, when you got on there, just horrible things were happening, so just I tried my best not to get caught up in that crap, because it was just like, here, I mean, I'm dead serious. It's easier for me to get to Fergus than what it is for me to get to Chicago, so that's all I gotta say. I'll pass.
Rearson, take us out, man. It's been good having you on. Maybe at some point you might come back. Maybe you need a break. But yeah, take out 390, and then we'll probably see you for 400. But it's been good. It's been a good run with you. But yeah, take us out, Rearson.
Brad Walz has no balls. That's all that I can say about that guy. This was an absolute boneheaded move on the part of whoever decided for Kamala, whoever the running mate was going to be. I mean, we can thank him, not from Minnesota, but we can thank him for boys' washrooms in school, biological males having access to tampons and feminine hygiene products. I'm sorry, but that alone, I don't care how intelligent the guy is, but that alone should be already a big red flag for anybody to even think about voting for her. And then there's the stolen valor argument. I mean, the guy, Tucktail, ran away from military duty that he was enlisted in. And he's claiming to be something he's not. Now, from what I've come to understand, that's something that is, if it's serious enough, it could be prosecuted. As far as I'm concerned, it's something that should be prosecuted. Either you have the paperwork to support it or you don't. So, my opinion, the man's a fraud. I'd apologize for stating the obvious, but someone has to say it. So, and if someone who made this decision didn't think that the public wouldn't look into him, same thing about JD Vance, but Vance seems to have more credibility. If I was able to vote in the US of A, I honestly don't know if I would or not. I mean, Kelso, I have had this conversation. Kelso's brought it up before. And as I mentioned before about the Uniparty thing, I am hopeful for a Trump presidency again. At least as an official second one. I'll leave it at that. But I don't know. This was just a fucking an obvious boneheaded move. So, whatever. But then again, looking at the skin and Kamala's neck at different times and speeches or State of the Union addresses and whatnot doesn't quite look right. So, who knows? Who knows? But maybe this is just one of those steps that has to be pushed to make the populace as well. So, I don't know. I could be right. I could be wrong. I could be partially right. I don't know. But yeah, this is. If I know anybody that would vote for this person, I would laugh right in their face. Especially Canadians, just because anybody but Trump, that sort of thing. So yeah, I've got nothing more to say on this one, but fuck me running. This is hilarious. And on that note, my friend, I have nothing more to say.
Vote Vermin Supreme.
Did he just mention tampons in prison?
Tampons in boys' bathrooms.
Oh shit! I thought he said prisons, dude. I was like, why the fuck would an inmate need tampons, dude? Male inmates, I should say.
Coming to a prison near you.
That's right, Kamala. She fucked her way to the top. Now she can fuck the country over. Vote Kamala. All right. So if anybody else has anything more to say, we're going to call it a night. Rearson, there will always be a spot available for you. You take as much time as you need to work out whatever it is you need to work out. If you decide to come back, great. You're more than welcome. But yeah, just giving you all a bit of a heads up here. Unlike when I first started doing this with Rearson, good God, that was 2017. Oh yeah, you also have to come back for the 7th anniversary episode if you're available, Rearson, but that's not till the end of November. But the issue, the whole issue with this is that, I mean, the Democrat Party has just simply become so woke that they have just simply lost touch. And it's like, George Soros and the globalists are just seeing less and less and less return on their money because they're just seeing what they're attempting to do doesn't work. And, if this again, I've looked at the polls, it looks like I mean, there was a bit of a bump. If I went to race to 270 at one point, it looked like it was almost dead even. But when I looked at some of the other polling sites, it's sort of like, no. That basically Trump is, at this point, the Kamala bump has kind of leveled things out a little bit, but the only problem is that, I mean, the mainstream media can only achieve so much now because, they don't have control over the soft power anymore. Google and Meta don't control the entire internet. Twitter and Rumble and all of these alt media sites out there are going along just fine, and they're getting stronger and stronger and stronger day by day, month by month. So that concludes 290. We will be doing 291, which is the basically pedophilia in Hollywood and basically YouTube melodrama, we will cover the Wojcicki death tomorrow in a little bit more detail.